Call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You and I just did the same thing.
They roll.
They roll real well. I like it.
They roll too easy. Before we call the first department head up, I have a couple announcements I'd like to make.
Sure.
First one is Mr. Joyce is extending his apologies. He cannot make the first half of the meeting. He is currently in Northampton at a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor to discuss various funding programs, and he is planning on addressing some issues with her that hopefully we can get some money freed up for the town of Granby to take care of some of the issues that we need to take care of. So he is planning on coming once the meeting in Northampton is over. So.
Is it a direct meeting or is it some type of?
It's a direct meeting. She's in Northampton. She has like 3 meetings, and one of them he had received an email from her inviting him to go. So he is going to be there representing the town of Granby. The second item is we had planned an executive session for 5:30. However, in speaking with town council, we are unable to go into executive session for that purpose due to the fact that it does not fit the criteria to go into it. So what I'm going to do is I'll address the issue, and I'll need the board to take a vote on how it's to be handled. On March 4th, 2019, the town clerk received a open meeting law complaint form from a Mr. Joseph Shalou regarding a Granby, Mass. Select Board meeting, specifying that Chairman Stephen Chinaki and Selectman Glenn Sexton committed the violation on February 4th, 2019. What I'm going to request is that instead of each individual board member responding to said complaint, that the board vote to have town council respond to the Attorney General's office on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
I'm okay with that. Is there something that we need to do beforehand, before it goes to town council?
Nope, because we've already forwarded this to them.
Okay.
We have met the requirements of the complaint process by the public body must meet to review the complaint within 14 business days. It was filed March 4th. We're meeting our 14 business days because today is the 14th, so we've met that. After review, but within the 14 business days, the public body must respond to the complaint in writing and must send the Attorney General a copy of the complaint and description of any action the public body has taken to address it. Okay? If the public body may delegate this responsibility to its counsel or a staff member, but only after it has met to review the complaint.
Okay.
So I believe if you would like to speak to Mr. O'Toole on your behalf, you can call him.
Okay.
And the chairman of the board can also call him to discuss what the response will be.
Okay.
Okay? But I would like to get permission by a vote from the 2 board members present to allow Town Council Brian O'Toole to respond to the complaint on behalf of the board.
I'll make a motion that we allow Chris Martin.
No,
No
Brian
motion?
O'Toole.
Well, you're going to contact him though.
Yes.
So I'm going to make a motion that we allow you to contact our town council, Brian O'Toole, to act on our behalf. Myself, Glenn Sexton, as well as Steve Shinaki, in regards to an open meeting law complaint filed against us.
I'll second that motion. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
opposed?
I won't go down that road because we had that discussion the last meeting. All right, the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss with the department heads all of the FY20 budgets that are being submitted by the departments under the supervision of the Board of Selectmen as the elected officials of the town of Granby.
Okay.
You will not be going through the other elected boards. You won't be going through the assessors, Board of Health, treasurer, collector, any other elected officials' budget, just the ones who report to you.
Yes.
Okay?
Would the fire chief like to come up and, would you like a chair?
There's one right over there.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Good afternoon.
Well, this is where you went.
Trying to hide. Oh, sorry. Gentlemen, I did submit to Mr. Martin a summary of narrative for the budgets that I'm submitting for this year. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read those, but in sum, last year was the first year that we made some changes to how we operate the fire and EMS budgets, being that we found salary was one of the areas that was of greatest concern. There was concern that the town was subsidizing the enterprise fund, and it was later determined that the appropriate action was to shift the salaries in a more manner that makes sense. 75% of the full-timer's day is spent doing fire duties as opposed to EMS time. And conversely, 25% of our calls are EMS and 75 are fire, but we felt the best way to handle the budget was to go by what they spend their time doing. So we made that change last year. With having that change and this being the first budget cycle and having that go on, we looked at a few things, and I think we're on a good path. We're just needing to fine tune. So, going right into the fire budget. Last year, we had requested 510,000. Where did I put it? $510,734. That was an increase from the 210 previously, and that was mostly, again, because of the change in the manner in which we took care of salary. In the budget, you'll see that, as you know, there are three major sections: salaries, operating costs, and then capital. Overall, on the fire budget, when Chris Martin sent out the letter indicating they were looking for our budget numbers, there was a 2% increase that was recommended that we stick to. I actually came under that. I think it's important to try to spend the money where it's most needed in these areas. Just some points of significance. On the fire wages section of the budget, last year we had requested $75,000 in overtime costs, and that was we were dealing with an unknown We have a firefighter who's on a medical leave, some other things going on. So we weren't sure what we were actually going to have for costs. However, we found that we can reduce that by $20,000, and I think we'll be pretty good. And it's based on actually looking at vacation time, sick time, holidays, and so that's I think a good number to bring it down to and still be operating.
What was spent this year in overtime?
To date, overtime is $32,277 so far.
All right, with a few months left.
Yes,
So-
and projecting out, I don't think we're going to use the remaining
No.
42,000.
And you think this was basically kind of a normal year or a little above normal? Or-
This was a significantly increased year.
Okay.
We had some full-timers, one full-timer went out on paternity leave, one was out on medical leave, another went out on sick leave for a period of time. So this was a very abnormal year. The calculations that I made was based on what we would consider a normal year, based on how many vacation days that each member has accrued, the holidays. So I tried to use the realistic numbers. What occurred this year, just unexpected.
So you came in under what you are estimating for fiscal year 2020.
Yes.
So, good.
So before we go into the next section, any other questions on salaries and wages? No? Okay. So the next area is operating costs, and again, here, I'm trying to use real numbers. I've been, over the last 2 years, trying to track exactly what we're spending on operating costs for vehicle maintenance and things of that nature. I looked at numbers that we took for, say, taking an apparatus and, what do we normally spend a year soup to nuts? And so I plugged those numbers in, and I added a little bit extra because I anticipate the need to replace tires on one of the fire trucks this year, excuse me, as well as some other various things that may come up. So I tried, in this whole budget, I tried to align these numbers up with looking at the trends and where they should be. There really was no huge difference in the operating cost. All these numbers, if you notice on the right side, I have a section for what the delta is, the difference between, what we'd requested before and what we were requesting in the coming year. That's that last column. And the only two increases was in radios and pagers, and then $75 under telephone. So nothing mind-blowing there. Any questions on the regular operating stuff?
Pond, the dredging. It looks like we did it back in fiscal year 2017 and fiscal year 2018. But we haven't done it. There's nothing predicted for, we didn't do a fiscal year 19, or nothing's predicted for 2020?
No, we haven't spent any money.
Oh,
That's an
okay.
appropriation that's been sitting out there for quite a few years
Okay.
for the dredging of Dufresne Park. Okay? There was an article that was put together back, I think, before even Dennis Houle was the fire chief. What we were trying to do is we were going to try and get the Army Corps of Engineers to come in and do the design work, and I'll file all the permits. And then we're going to use, hook up with a local construction, and use that as a training tool for some of their operators for the clamshell and other type of heavy equipment. all we were going to have to do is pay the cost of diesel. That never occurred. We can't even get through the permitting process so we can move to the next step. So at some point, either we're going to have Dufresne Pond turned into a marshland, or we are going to have to do something about getting that dredged out.
The last section on the fire budget is regarding the capital costs, some of the smaller projects. Some of the differences in here, again, smaller increases, but based on some things that we're doing or looking to do in the coming year. So I added $1,000 to the computers budget with the intent of, we have some old computers, that's the first issue. Plus, we're looking at just updating our equipment. We may need to look at a new server and firewall to coincide with another piece that I'll be speaking of in a minute. With the to meet the security needs to be able to interact the two systems, police and fire. And what I'm referring to is on computer software, I added some money as well. We're using a program right now called Image Trend, and it is the program we use for writing our EMS reports as well as our fire reports. The program's older. It's not as user-friendly as it could be. It's difficult to run reports. It's a pretty big process in using this program, and we looked at this program as a means to also be able to track our maintenance, all of our equipment, and there's just no easy way of using it. The other aspect of that is we're looking to use this program that's called IMC, which is the same program that the police department uses with a fire department module. Having the same system as the police department is going to have many, many benefits, to include the ability to, the dispatcher enters the information into the computer system. When the firefighters return to the station and they go to do a report, they don't have to go get information from the dispatcher. All they got to do is open up the program. It's all right there. It pre-populates the previous information, and then you just knock out the report. This program comes with many additional features that are going to be a huge improvement to the way we're operating right now, to include the ability to access pre-fire plans right from the program online. We're going to be able to better track minute, what would probably be considered minute details to some is pretty significant to us. Being able to better track times of the week where we have incidents, what months are more busier than others. I'm able to do that with the current program, but it's just a lot more difficult and it's limited. So on the capital side, we're looking for an increase to be able to pay for the yearly costs of running that program. None of the other areas under capital increase, just those two areas. So all technological.
for the fire department?
No, I'm good. I'm with the fire department.
I am too.
You move on to the EMS.
Move on to your next.
Okay. EMS. This one was a little different for us. We've learned a tremendous amount over the last year about the budget and trying to meet the needs of the community. Initially, we saw a reduction of what we were requesting in the EMS budget because we made that change. In making that change, we found that it's best to handle the budget in a different manner. And what the big change this year for us was really under the salary section, the verse in this community that are capable of providing and volunteering their time to be available for calls. Plus, with the full-time members that were out for various reasons throughout the year, we needed to find a way to resolve our paramedic problem. The way we went about it was we went to per diem paramedics. And what that is essentially we're hiring qualified paramedics as quasi-part-time employees, if you will. They work for a set salary for the period of time that we request them to work. What this has done for us has been pretty significant. What I would like to point out and how it relates to the budget is when we didn't have paramedics available, we would lose the potential for receipts for calls. And that's how we fund the enterprise fund.
So those calls would go to another town or different ambulance service?
Correct. Now, on the flip side of that, on days that we did have an ambulance available but no paramedic, we would need to do what's called an intercept, which means another community would provide a paramedic for us, but at a cost.
Right.
Last year, I had budgeted $2,000 for intercepts, and we've blown that out of the water. To date, we have spent $6,550 in intercept fees alone. Coupled with, again, not having an ambulance available, that could really affect the receipts we're getting for calls.
Does that come back as part of the, having the volunteers for paramedics?
Yes.
That's
We just don't have them.
Right.
We just don't have them available.
So that's why we see such an increase?
Yes.
amount?
So one thing we also did in this last year was we brought on another full-time employee. And in doing that, as you may recall, how we do the scheduling based on an 8-day work week is the full-timers work 4 on, 4 off.
Right.
We added an individual to work 4 of those overnights, but that still left 4 overnights that we couldn't cover. And without the ability of having the paramedics in the community, we just were not able to fill the need. So we've reached out, and we have paramedics who work for other communities that do come in and cover those various 4 nights. So that's really the difference on the salary portion on the ambulance. We have to meet the needs of the community, and the only way to do that is to get somebody in here in the station on those days and times. Now, there's a lot of other things that are going on that I think are going to benefit us down the line. We are looking to go to a new program on the ambulance side for patient care reports. The way we operate right now, when we have a medical call, and the ambulance just went out right now, that ambulance is tied up for 2 hours. Okay? I've run the numbers. You know, our average time in a hospital after dropping the patient off is 1 hour, 1 minute, and 35 seconds. It's a long time to be at the hospital. So we tried to look back at why we were having these issues. And what we found was, again, it goes back to the program that we're using for our patient care reports. All the other services in the area have the ability to drop their patient off and leave. And they do the report on their way to the next call, on the way to the station, but they drop the patient off and they get back to their community. Our program didn't allow us to do that, and we can't leave the hospital without providing a patient care report or the means to ensure that they get the report. The time it took for the members to drop the patient off, reservice the ambulance, get the report done, printing everything out, it was taking that hour's time. This new program is going to allow us, because we're going to use, there's 219 communities in the Commonwealth that use this program. We can get that ambulance back in service and here back in town to serve the residents. So we are potentially cutting 45 minutes to an hour's time off to get that ambulance back here.
I almost, I mean, the way it sounds is that the new software almost pays for itself.
I think it will, because we're going to get our people back here to serve the community
Right.
quicker.
So they're not being at that hospital for that extra 45 minutes or so. They're back, if you will, back in town and on duty to serve instead of being off-site, if you will.
Absolutely. And that gives us the ability to make the calls and reap the benefits of the receipts to pay for the services. So there's a lot of things going on that although they may seem to be a negative, especially with the increase that we're requesting for salaries, conversely, I think that's really going to pay for itself in the end, as you say, that we should be able to get that offset by having them back here. So that's the wages section. Any questions on the wages? Okay, operating costs. So I really looked here at what we were spending, where we were spending it on. I've looked at how we are operating as a whole as an ambulance service. And I found areas that we may be able to save or move to an area that's going to be more beneficial to us. You'll see that under the line item quality control audit, we were paying about $1,800 a year to have QA, basically quality assessment, done on our reports. After speaking with our medical control and the members of the department, other departments, we feel that we can do our own quality assurance. I know that this company was brought in previously for other issues that were going on. However, I think that the department is in a good way to be able to police itself in that sense, and included with that is we will be working very, very closely with our medical control. Our medical control would be a significant part of the QA process. In order for this to happen, we would need to shuffle some of that money around to other areas to take care of the yearly costs of this new program that we're looking at for the ambulance service. So as much as we decreased it in one, we moved it to another, which will take care of offsetting that cost.
Is that something you can report out with, maybe quarterly? Just as it seems it's a service that we're taking away that we've had for the past several years, and you feel confident that we can do without it. But is there a way we can you can report out on it? quarterly, just so we see make sure that there's no issues with it.
Are you talking about the actual QI/QA itself?
Yes.
I can work with our medical control, who's going to oversee our QI/QA program, and I'm certain they would be more than happy to supply the board with a quarterly assessment of what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, myself, I can't speak for Steve, but I guess that's something I'd like to see if we're taking something away that we've had in the past, but you feel confident that it's something we can do without. I'd definitely like to see, at least a quarterly.
Assess the situation a quarterly.
Yeah,
so
we
to
can
see
see
if it's, living up to its standards.
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk to the doctor and the nurse that works with him that will be overseeing the program for us.
I mean, as well as yourself, too, because you're going to feel
Yeah.
confident knowing that it's...
No, absolutely.
done.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Thank you.
One of the other areas you're going to see an increase is in the area of collection services. This is money that we pay to have a company do our billing and collect the receipts for what we're billing out for ambulance service. We have seen an increase in call volume. Alone in the EMS side, we've had about 100 or so calls more this year than just last year alone. So although this is an increase, understand that this is actually a percentage of the money that we get in receipts for payment to the company that does this. So with more calls, expectation that we're going to make more money. One other area that we're working on right now, and our EMS coordinator has been working diligently in trying to improve the manner in which we're receiving our required education for our EMS licenses each year. And I believe that he has found an excellent, we use a company, we've been using a company for several years called Community 911. And what we had done in the past is pay by head. And each class was a certain set amount, and that was it. He's been able to work an arrangement where we can pay for individuals, but give them the ability to say we offer the class in our department, but a member can't make it. That would require them to pay for a different location. Here, they will allow us to let our members go wherever they're teaching to ensure that they're meeting their educational requirements. So this is actually pretty big for us because we've had issues with trying to make sure that everybody's getting the required training each year. Exactly. We just haven't had the ability to offer a lot of options. Now we do. So that's an area that we've been looking at. That's pretty much all on the operational side. Any questions on that?
I'd just like to point one thing out. We went to Steve and I went to the Pathfinder budget meeting last night. They are starting a new evening program called Pathfinder in the PM. And one of the proposed course offerings is for licensing and certification offerings for EMTs. And I think I'd like the fire chief to look into seeing if that course is available, what the cost would be, and then compare it to the Community 911 cost of making sure our certifications are up to date.
Pathfinder in the PM?
Pathfinder in the PM.
Now,
Okay.
is that a course to become an EMT, or
It
is that?
says licensing
or
and
con-
certification offering, so I'm sure it would be, they're doing these CPCs or continuing
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if it's the continuing part of it, or it's just the big.
Well, it
it's
says
the big-
licensing too, so I got a feeling,
Licensing,
Yeah.
and what it appeared last night that what they were saying is that you're to be trained as an EMT and also be continued education and further, certification. It does appear that way.
I just would like him to look into it and utilize that service if possible.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
They have some, I have to admit, they have some very interesting courses for adults in the evening. I was duly impressed.
That's the list that we were talking about. I'll need that back. If you want, I can make a photocopy of that for you.
Did our school submit the budget yet?
I have not received a copy of the proposed FY20 budget, but I don't know if they're done finalizing it at this point in time.
Okay.
That's some good stuff.
Yeah, no, their presentation last night was so professional in how they presented everything and the budget, and it was just remarkable. It was a refreshing and enlightening budget meeting.
And while our senior services director is here, they are also doing ServSafe,
Yes,
offering ServSafe.
The school is.
yes,
Yes,
Oh, great.
under that Pathfinder in the PM.
yes.
So you may want to contact them at some point and see if it's available, when it's available, how much it would cost you.
I will do.
Okay? I just thought I'd bring it in
No, it's
because,
interesting, there's a lot of good things there, and obviously it's the way the schools, trying to bring more revenue into the schools. But that's great, some good things in there.
plus fostering additional community interest
Yeah.
in the school.
Yeah,
Go ahead. It was impressive.
yeah,
It really, truly was.
that's great. And it's a good school, too.
It is. It's one of the better in the areas.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's good to know.
It's just good information
Yeah, absolutely.
for a town also, just for in general, just remarkable, the presentation they gave last night.
The goal, particularly while we're here today, which is the budget, if we can get it cheaper, then, we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So that's all I had in operating process. Any questions on operating?
I don't have any additional ones.
I don't either.
Okay. And then on the capital on the lower end here, I really didn't do much here, other than I looked at the PPE, and we're looking to increase that by $1,000 because we're looking at PPE up and above what we normally get, gloves and gowns and masks and whatnot, so that was pretty easy on that one.
They certainly need your protective gear.
I'm good. I don't have any. I'm good.
VSO.
So that's, you guys good with that one?
Yes.
Okay. Veteran Services. So Veteran Services, we didn't ask for any increase at all this year. I believe what we've been funding for the past year, we didn't increase because of the cost to pay for my wages. But aside from that, I didn't look for any increases. What I did do is, this is my first year really being introduced as the Veteran Services Officer and understanding how that's funded, how that operates, how it works. And what I had noticed was that although we were able to get the numbers to match between the state and what they were saying they were paying out and what the town was paying out, you could come to the number. It wasn't easy. How the state records their finances and what they call their line items or their categories didn't match the towns. And so I worked with Mr. Martin and we got those categories to match. So now it's a whole lot easier for me to conduct my monthly audits and make sure that we're where we should be. I will say under the VSO program, what we pay out less wages and then some of the items that are not covered under what this program is with Chapter 115. Although we may be paying out X amount of dollars as required by law for veteran services, we get 75% of that back. So, you know, I kind of use the analogy that, you know, after all is said and done, if we have $57,100 that gets paid out for services, we're getting $42,825 of that back. So we're not really using as much as we're requesting because it's really a state-funded program with some support by the communities.
You get 75% back as long as your VSO is certified by the state. And in order to become certified, he has to attend the annual school every year. We were able to get a waiver from the Department of Veteran Services because the chief was not able to attend last year's school. But if he doesn't attend this year's school, that 75% will drop to 50%. And it's a 3-day school held down in the Leominster area.
Is there a cost of the school?
It's paid completely by the Veteran Services Office, our Veteran Services Bureau.
Out of curiosity, I see the salary. What was our share of John's salary? Can you recall?
No, because ours was a complete assessment.
Okay.
And I believe our assessment was 7% of the total budget, so if he was making $42,000, then 11% would be 4,200 plus another 425, 4660.
Okay. Just curious.
What is your current caseload, John?
5 cases right now, but that's been fluid. I've seen an increase in people coming through the office. And I encourage this, but I want to see the caseload increase because that shows that we're providing the services to the veterans. But a steady 5 with occasional increases and decreases here and there based on sometimes people come in because they're unemployed for a period of time, so they may be entitled for services for short periods.
Have you incorporated an outreach program? Out of curiosity.
Not an official one, but I've been spending some time down at the COA. I'm always promoting it when I'm down here talking, and we got several veterans that are.
We get a lot of referrals from you.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
excellent.
we go back and forth. We have a great working relationship between the COA and the VSO.
Excellent.
I wonder if that's something we can maybe advertise in the paper as well. We have a budget set aside for the program.
I would like to actually start a Facebook page for the Veteran Services. I believe there's a lot of veterans out there who just don't know what they are eligible for. And I've been seeing a lot of that lately. People are coming up and didn't realize that they were entitled to benefits.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, and that's what I'm thinking is that's kind of what Steve was talking about, more outreach. There's more ways we can reach out to the public, so they know this is here for as far as benefits, but you know, also it can be very helpful to them.
No, I think
I don't know if it's something we can team up with the VFW or something like that. Some of their members there, or something like, kind of get that word out there too.
So although I will admit I haven't been as active as I'd like to be because I'm busy with the town's work, but I am a member of our Legion, and I am also the Veteran Services Officer for them. So I have promoted pretty much every time I go in there. I'm talking to people and trying to get them to come in here, and when they have their monthly meetings, I always try to make a pitch for, here's my card, come up and see.
I know there's a bulletin board in there, that means something to be put up on that, just kind of.
So they have a bulletin board that's supposed to be just for veteran services. It's kind of been used for other things, but they've assured me that they're going to let me use it for just veteran services.
It'd be nice to have a nice, good-sized flyer up there. Just, I think we need to make sure that we're doing our part to reach as many as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that a little bit more.
Yes.
Because I think it is, without a doubt, something I think I'd like to
Absolutely.
pursue.
Questions on the VSO budget?
No. Ordinary allowance, there's 63% less.
Sorry, what's that?
Ordinary allowance?
So ordinary benefits, what that is someone who has a very low income, that's a subsidization of their income. So if let's say, for example, their Social Security check that they get is actually below a certain percentage of the poverty level, we make that up. So that's what those ordinary benefits are. And to be honest with you, we don't spend a lot on ordinary benefits. Most of our money that we pay for veterans is in the area of medications, doctor's visits, those kinds of things. So the intent also in working with Mr. Martin and having these line items was to better track where we're spending the money and put those line items, put the money where we best believed it was going to be used and more appropriate to be used.
I just want to go back to the training you were talking about, Chris. Is that on a fiscal year, or is that the annual year? That's when it has to be completed.
It's held every fall.
Okay.
So I believe it's a fiscal year, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But the former VSO, John O'Connor, used to go on an annual basis.
Okay.
And before, what would happen is we would have to pay and we'd get reimbursed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Then they started paying for the course. And then, like I said, attendance is mandatory to maintain your certification.
Right.
And if you don't, then our percentage reimbursement drops from 75% to 50%.
So I just want to make sure that come fall, that the chief has the opportunity to go, because obviously.
He better go.
Right. Because wherever that cutoff window may be, I'm wondering if that's so that will, if he goes this year, that would be okay for our fiscal budget for 20. Okay.
Well, we still will spend this. It's just the receipts that we receive offsetting these.
Well, we'll get back 75% versus 50%.
Yes,
Right. That's,
yes. Any other questions, or?
I don't have any questions.
I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief.
Roll Selectman Joyce's chair down. I was waiting until you were done, so it wouldn't be noisy over the audio.
That's okay, no, you can leave it there. Just put
He's
it-
not here.
Is he not coming?
He
in?
will be coming later.
Eventually.
He will be coming later.
He may be done by
Just
then.
leave it right there.
You can just leave it right there
Okay.
for now. We can do it probably during the recess
Actually, if
period.
you'd like, you can put it out in the parking lot. So you can bring it in when you... If you'd like. Or would you like me to put it out there for you?
You can do it.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you, chief. Enjoy your evening.
All right. So, most of these line items are pretty consistent with previous fiscal years. There are a few increases that I'd like to just go over really quickly. First would be the repair and maintenance of our vehicles. As you can see, what we have requested for fiscal year 2020, it's gone up 50%. That is because the expenses so far in this fiscal year have gone way over budget to the point where I needed to submit a request through the Finance Committee to fund that account. The total amount was, so far, hopefully we're good, is $1,557.91 over 7 incidents. Our current balance is negative $823.91. So in the interest of preventing future negative balances, I've requested some more.
And that's maintaining the vehicles?
Yes.
To a standard where they pass inspection, their safety?
Is for the seniors?
Yes, that's the
Or
priority.
Guaranteed? Okay.
The priority is keeping the seniors safe and having the vehicles being in good condition. The other increase that you'll see is in the repair and maintenance of office supplies. So that's gone up 86%. That is because we've decided to get a license for playing music here, which I think is an important step. And so that, in the fiscal year of 2019, cost $357. And it'll continue to increase. So I accounted for that in that account, as well as updating our movie license. We screen 2 films a month here, and maintaining the water dispenser.
And I think it's important that people know when you do show movies here, you just can't do it. It's not like you're doing it at your house.
Which is true.
And some people don't understand that. You actually have to pay a fee, a licensing fee to allow you to do it in a public area. So I think it's important to acknowledge.
Right.
I think the
A substantial improvement on that. As she indicated, that she get the licensing for the audio.
Once she understood that she needed licensing, she
Yes.
did follow up. on
Yes,
it,
she did.
That was a fun conversation.
But I've had a lot of positive feedback about that. It's a positive thing.
Well, just like a restaurant, you come in here, you have nice music while you're dining.
And the activities and all that.
We have a great sound system here too, that was underutilized, and it's fantastic, the surround sound in here.
That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe on break we can
Oh, yeah.
break out the.
During recess. Let's see if any other increases. That would just be for dues. There was a small increase to account for our annual dues for the Massachusetts Council on Aging and our dues for the environmental Department of Environmental Protection. So that just went up. Everything else is pretty similar.
The issue with the dues for the Mass Council on Aging, originally they were charging us $10 per senior, but because our formula grant, which is our state reimbursement grant, went to $12 per senior, they decided to increase it from the 10 to the 12, which caused the annual dues to increase, just so the board knows. There was one difference between me and Chloe regarding staffing. During FY19, she has a clerk currently for 20 hours a week. From my observations and from hearing other people come in and complain, I didn't feel that we needed a clerk because I wasn't seeing that individual being busy during the 20 hours a week. I had made the recommendation to eliminate the position and get volunteers to come in and cover some of those hours. Chloe turned around and counter-offered, saying that she needs someone there on a regular basis, at least 10 hours a week. I acquiesced to her request and had her budget for 10 hours a week.
I think that's fair. I'd hate to really do away with a position completely and then find out, that position was needed. So like you kind of said, with a 10-hour-a-week position, I think you'll get a feel for it, whether or not, a year from now, where you would stand, whether or not it needs to be increased or decreased at that point. So.
The other half of that is the efforts that she's been putting in into this department, in the senior center, and everything. I think that it's warranted to have somebody sitting there. She's certainly busy, and she's trying to improve very much the senior center and the programs. So, Chloe, yeah. Oh, no, it's Chloe I'm talking about.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm just saying this.
Make sure.
No.
Because I will agree, it was a good choice on the board to support my recommendation for appointment, because I believe Chloe has become a very good employee for the town.
Yeah, she has. I've been duly impressed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I think you're doing a splendid job down here. We got a lot of people.
I've been enjoying the position so far.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If the seniors are happy, we're happy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's real. That's who you are, that's who your customer is,
Yeah.
the seniors. So if they feel they're happy and their needs are being met, then that's our goal as well.
So those are the major changes. Do you have any questions?
So you heard what Mr. Martin said in regards to bringing it down to 10 hours for that staff person. I didn't hear your thoughts on it.
Well, my beliefs pretty much mirror what he said. There are concerns that the responsibilities of the clerk didn't justify 20 hours a week. The town hall offices had received complaints of too much downtime, and I've seen a good amount of downtime from my own observations as well. Like he said, when he wanted to eliminate the position altogether, there are a lot of responsibilities that are very helpful to the Council on Aging, including making appointments, sending our schedules, scheduling for instructors, communicating with newspapers to get our programs out there. She assembles the envelopes for all the newsletters, which is, right now, we're up to 750 physical mailings. There's a lot going on. I just don't know if it justified 20, but I really appreciate that we still have the position.
I'm good.
Good, too.
She twisted my arm.
Is there anything else, Chloe?
No, that's it for me.
Senior lunch program. You have 2 budgets you submitted.
Oh, yes, correct.
No, you had your chance. That's it.
So the senior lunch program, so our employee Kim, she has 2 positions. She's the activities coordinator as well as the nutrition sites coordinator. The activities budget is funded through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs through the formula grant. The other part is funded through the town, and for fiscal year 2020, I followed the cost of living adjustment increase to 1% to her wage. So that's what you're seeing in the request there. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very
Anything
much.
else? Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you.
Wasn't that bad, was it?
No.
Well, why we have 15 minutes
Okay.
before the...
Please, Chief.
No, building inspector,
Oh, okay.
because he's on for 4:15.
So we'll take a recess?
No,
Break?
no.
Changing the name, you think he's gonna fall for it?
I know.
Recess? No, how about a break then?
What I'd like to do is just go over the Pathfinder budget,
Oh,
Oh,
because
okay.
it wasn't part of the
sure.
budgets, because I just got this last night, attending. As Steve said, they make a very good presentation. They had talked about that they had what, 118 kids out on the regional competitions for the various trades. They brought back, I want to say, what did they bring back, Steve? About 8 golds? Yeah. 10 bronzes and 6 or 7 bronzes.
With silver medals and all
Yeah.
that, it's so impressive.
Yeah, and I guess they swept one of the categories. I think it was welding or something like that. I think they swept. So,
That's really incredible. I mean, and we have the opportunity to send, some of our students to that school. And
Yes.
It's that highly recognized.
they also did talk about that they are ready to offer the new plumbing program come the September. They already had 156 applications for next school year, and of that, 56 of them were for the plumbing program.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, those occupations as far as plumbing, as a plumber, as a master plumber, master electrician, it's huge, and they're actually in demand right
I
now.
was just going to say that. They were indicating last night that even the apprentice programs, if they had the students, there is an enormous amount of interest in actually, and I think they have the plumbers, and they have all them on board, and just the apprentice programs that they can be affiliated with. It's just remarkable out there, and like they said, we could fill jobs right now if we had the manpower, if we had that type of education already in existence.
That's true.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, the new evening program, which is Pathfinder in the PM, is basically it's an adult education program that allows the school to bolster opportunities for community members to pursue both professional and personal goals. And basically the courses they were offering for under licensing and certification offerings: cosmetology, electrician, plumber, advanced manufacturing, HVAC tech, CAD, phlebotomy, medical assistance, ServSafe, robotics, CPR first aid, EMT, and hoisting, which is great. And then for general interest, for just people who like to learn or dabble or increase their skills, is cake decorating, Mediterranean cooking, which I thought was an interesting one to deal with, farm to table, gardening, woodworking, do-it-yourself welding, beekeeping, stained glass, quilting, photography, QuickBooks, public speaking, and future planning, which includes financial, retirement, and Medicare. Great programs,
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
you know. And they budgeted $80,000 this year to start this program up.
Well, obviously, they probably see a demand for it, and took the opportunity to,
Yep.
to be part of it and recognize that.
We had 4 additional students going to, was it 4, Steve? I think it was 4.
Sure. Thank you.
you go to page 9, Ken? Public?
You gave it the wrong one?
This is CTE one.
You gave me the right one, I just took the wrong one.
As you can see, they compare year to year. We're up 4 students for FY '20.
That's great. It really is. I mean, and again, I just, recognize the opportunity that we have students that can go to the school and we obtain different things. I think it's excellent.
Yep. And with that increase, and then if you go over to page 10, per the reports issued to DESE, the total number of students attending Granby schools is up 31, from 842 to 873. So with those increases, and based upon the regional agreement, we end up where our projected increase from FY19 to FY20 is $50,839.
It's always good.
Yep. And just so everybody out there knows, is for FY20, a vocational student is valued at approximately $17,590. That's what it costs to educate a vocational student for FY20, up from $16,885 in FY19. So usually the cost to educate under vocation is usually double the cost of what it costs to educate a general public school child. So I think we get our value for the buck from Pathfinder, and hopefully they'll continue to offer new courses, so we'll have our kids going to Pathfinder only and not having to go to Smith or some other vocational school due to the lack of a course being offered at.
Well, it definitely sees that they're trying to broaden their scope as far as different classes and courses they're going to offer.
Yeah, and they said there's probably like a backlog, what they say, about 100 kids to try and get in the plumbing program at Smith Folks. So hopefully this program will take off and be very successful for them.
The plumbing program at Pathfinder is now, the superintendent and the vocational manager were at Smith, and they went through Dean, but they're now over at Pathfinder. So they're bringing the success of the programs at Smith into the Pathfinder.
Yeah, so hopefully, I think they're on the right path. I think they are giving us a bang for our buck.
Yeah, definitely.
And to be honest with you, Glenn, the presentation they made is great. They have the superintendent up there, they had the principal of the school up there presenting, they had the business manager up there presenting, and they were very informative on everything going on.
It's definitely. They want people to come to their school.
Yes.
They have something they want to offer, a product they want to offer, and they definitely want people to attend.
Yes. So, yeah.
It's great.
It was a good time. And their presentation took, what, about 2 hours?
Approximately, yeah.
Hour and a half, 2 hours.
Hour and a half, yeah.
So,
It was a truly very professional presentation.
well, it's kind of out there. I don't know if you want to take the building
Oh,
commissioner.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
He's standing there, ready to go.
Looks like he's ready.
Oh, no, we'll find ways to film. Enjoy yourself. Just have to watch it.
Okay.
If you start to sweat, you're in trouble.
Well, my eyes are going to show up red, so.
No loud outbursts.
So, go ahead, Rick, just go through your budget form.
Okay, well, you had given me my budget. You said you wanted to keep things at about 2%. There were a couple things that we had talked about that I didn't understand, but you had explained why, for instance, the part-time wages have been so high. And that should be coming down. I thought I had actually put 1,500 in, but I didn't know if you'd change that to remedy the slightly over 2% that the budget increase was going to be.
I thought it was 1,000, so I'll change it to 15.
It was just a way of augmenting because
That's fine.
it didn't seem like if we were going to be spending money to keep the building commissioner in South Hadley for any length of time, that 1,000 was going to be spent rather quickly.
Let me grab your budget now.
And that was just off the top of my head. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'll change it to 1,500. That's what you said you wanted, right?
I think it makes sense.
Okay.
There's no sense being shorted and seeing as how in the past 2 years there's been more than that spent.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
I'm just actually coming up to speed on most of these expenditures.
Sorry, time's up.
All right. The tuition and meetings bumped up a little bit, but there were several categories where it seemed like I thought we'd spent more. But I don't have any questions about the budget.
Well, part of the reason for the increase in tuition and meetings also is Greg is currently going through his certification process as a
Yep.
building commissioner. Hopefully he'll have it by the end of this year,
By the end of the fiscal year, yeah.
okay, by June. And also, we had brought on an assistant plumbing inspector who had to go through some of the certification process also that was unanticipated. So now we have both a plumbing inspector and a alternate plumbing inspector that we didn't have for quite a while. So that's some of the reasons why we're increasing it, because the state, as you well know, Glenn and Steve, requires a lot of continuing education, and it's not cheap.
So some of these costs actually are offset by the inspections themselves. right?
Yes.
So,
For the board's consideration at some point in the future, we've been discussing the current fee schedule for building. And part of it has to revolve around the construction of solar fields. The way we have it figured now, it's basically based on footprint.
right.
The problem we're having with footprint is they're now making these tracking arrays. And their footprint is just basically a pedestal versus a true grid system. Okay? Greg has suggested, and at some point we want to bring it forward to the board once we can get a better feel for it, to bill on a per kilowatt basis or base it on the true construction cost, a percentage of the true construction cost. And he wants to check with surrounding communities to see what they're doing in order to be able to foster properly assessing the cost of him to go out and do inspections, and the electrical inspector and whoever else has to go out and do it, and not have them get away now that it's just based upon footprint.
Well, absolutely, and I know I see that just from, being on a planning board, that the changes and that just the technology, and it keeps on advancing and advancing. But it'd be interesting to see, because I'm sure a lot of other communities
Well, the other
We'll see it
communities are
too.
actually, as far as I can tell, and
I asked yesterday at the district meeting, basing their fees pretty much the same way we are. But when I brought up the subject of changing the fee format, because certainly in the future, the kilowatts per acre is going to increase. So whether the parks get smaller or just more powerful remains to be seen, but they're going to be generating more power, which means they're going to be making more money. And if it's based strictly on some sort of marginal cost it doesn't make any sense. The 5 parks that went in on East Street, although I guess they're considered one park, the 5 of them together generated $33,500 in building fees as a one-time fee.
Right.
For 20 years, that's nothing. Their trucks are gonna wear out more road than that, never mind any of the rest of it. So to have a different fee structure seems to make sense. The thing that has to be decided next is whether it's legal. Everybody, all the surrounding towns thought it was a great idea, but is it legal?
Like anything, I think when, the solar farms really first started out, people didn't really understand what could be charged, what couldn't be charged, and now I think as the advancements going on, as you said, there are other ways to charge, because obviously the footprint's getting smaller and smaller, but the construction is definitely there.
Sure, and so, as far as I understand it, these fees have a lease life of 20 years, maybe 30. Most of them that I've seen here have a life of 20. Right? But there's no reason to believe that in 20 years, they're not going to want to retain the use, change the technology that's on the field, and are they going to try to not have to pay a new fee schedule then?
We're talking about that, that's exactly what I was thinking. Come to 20 years, and they decide, well, we want to extend another 10 years, well,
Great, pay up.
right, so it should be something written, yeah.
No, and
Most
there's
definitely.
there's nothing in the leases that I've been studying so far. I mean, there's some sort of decommissioning fee that gets put in, but that doesn't come to the town anyways, I don't think. That's just to cover the cost of the utility itself.
Well, let's see, maybe Granby can become a trendsetter.
Yeah, we'll end up in court.
Yeah, right. We're the first one to get sued, right?
I didn't mean that. I mean,
Well, certainly if there was some change in the fee schedule that wasn't going to be to the benefit of these companies, they're going to probably want to test it in court anyways.
we should go down our avenues, make sure that it's something legal to do. If there's other options, why not?
So I just want to let the board know that Clerk Greg has been looking into
Yeah.
it. Maybe we can get another community to join us in changing how the fee schedule is calculated, and then see what happens, and then go forward. from
Sounds like Greg.
Well, I'm getting two
Piques some
different,
interest. Talk
I'm
about
getting two distinctly different feelings, right? You have some towns that are getting a certain amount of desire to have solar parks or solar farms in their town, but they don't want them. Amherst, South Hadley, don't do that in my neighborhood. They wouldn't even let them put it on the dump. But towns like Belchertown or Granby have far more accessible excess land, so they're going to be subject to more inquiries. And so if it's the nature of the town's desire to develop that way, it's one thing. There are other avenues. If, like Amherst, you don't want them in your town. I mean, Amherst has 2 or 3 now, and they have them because it's all Cole's land, and Cole's just said, we can do whatever we want on our land.
No, it's interesting, and it's definitely worthwhile, because, we don't know what the future may hold, and it's good to go down different avenues and see what's available as far as fees and things like that for the town. It's definitely revenue, and as you said, I think it shouldn't be costing the town additional money. I think it's something, if you're collecting out X amount of funds for, permitting and inspections, that should cover it for a while.
And the other thing that Greg has been looking at and exploring a little bit, when someone comes in and wants to put an addition on their house, okay, on the building permit, they have to give a value, a proposed value for the addition. Then he bases it 7 cents a square foot,
$7 a thousand.
whatever it is. So you have these gentlemen who are coming in, they do the work themselves. They're putting a $5,000 addition up, and they're estimating the cost to be $1,000.
Multiply that times 10, and you'd have a little bit
better idea. Somebody's trying to tell me they can build a 2,600 square foot house brand new for $130,000. It's like, that's $50 a square foot. You can't build a garage for $50 a square foot.
So what Greg would like to do is, there's a website, correct?
It's an ongoing conversation. There's probably a website in it somewhere, but in fact, the building commissioner that's for the town now in South Hadley has started to develop the format where you just go to the website and it gives you a year-by-year change in the building cost per square foot. So if somebody comes in and wants to do an addition or a whole house, but it's living space, there's a dollar per square foot charge that's updated on a regular basis. So somebody wants to build a 2,600 square foot house at $212 a square foot now, right? That's a whole lot different than them saying, well, it's only going to cost me $130,000 to do this. Well, you can say it's going to cost you $130,000, and that might be money out of pocket, but it's not, you're not driving that $60,000 pickup truck that you won't put anything in the back of on the basis of the fact that you're paying yourself $12 an hour. Right, they're obviously making money writing it off. It doesn't show up on anybody's books because they got a way of, but they're making it out of the sale of the house, which then gets sold, so a permit went out for a house, $130,000 the permit went out for, the house is listed at $470,000. Right? It's not, I'm not capable of tracking down the legal part of it, but when you see the sale price of the house versus what they paid on the permit, there's got to be a different way of assessing the value of the permit.
My question to that, Greg, would be is talking to maybe some builders and find out, because obviously there is a markup, obviously when they sell properties. I don't think it's 3 times as much as building a house. I don't think it costs $130,000 to build a house. Now the house is worth $460,000 on the market. That seems a little tough to build a house with.
But the issue is what he was referencing mainly was, you have this independent authority.
Right.
Who is determining the cost per square foot to construct in Granby, South Hadley, Amherst, whatever, okay?
Countywide, Dodge report, or there's another.
Okay, and we use that independent report to value the cost of the structure. Instead of someone coming in and saying, it's $100,000 for a 2,600 square foot home. It's more of an independent.
Under the present system, I've got
Got no way of challenging them. They're giving me a number. We've got a fee structure based on so much per thousand. Right?
Yeah, I can see the dilemma.
Okay. Just so the board knows that we're looking at our fee schedule, there's some innovative thought going into it, but
I definitely want some more information on that and see how other towns and, obviously too, how many towns are using it throughout the state or cities and has been.
Is it a standard?
we want to be the trendsetter, don't you?
No, I think we might even be
Certain
behind the
things,
curve a little bit.
certain things, but again, and it has just been challenged though too,
Everything's can be challenged. You just have to be prepared.
well, again, if it's something that's already been
Established.
used and established for many years and it's been challenged and it's been fine with that, then I don't see why not, but, I want to make sure that we do our due diligence
Diligence.
and our homework to make sure that, we're not doing something that
Sure.
shouldn't be there. But
Like I
I
said,
agree.
the commissioner in South Hadley is already putting this together based on stuff that he's collecting. He's on the state board. So he has conversation at a much higher level with what people are doing for fees. And it's my understanding that this is the way it's done in the eastern end of the state, because the houses there are regularly selling, in the upper 6 figures, not the mid 6 figures.
But then again, I wonder, is it the market value versus the construction value? Because those are 2 different things.
They are 2 different things.
Well, I'm sure Greg can contact a couple of the building commissioners, the eastern part, central Mass.
Sure.
And ask them how they base their permit fees.
Well, it's an ongoing conversation already with the commissioner in South Hadley, because he's interested in coming up with a fee structure that's more relative anyway. So these questions are getting asked. It's much the same as the fee structure for the solar parks.
Right, I mean, I'm just going back to say, the $200,000 house to build here is the same $200,000 house to build in Eastern Mass. The labor might be a little different, but the material's all basically the same. You're paying the same, things like that. But that house out there, which is $200,000 here, depending where it is in Eastern Mass, could be $400,000.
It could easily be, and I'm sure their fee structure is designed to capture that.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm wondering, just, and I know you will, and obviously you've been talking about it already. I'm not
Sure.
challenging it. I'm just
Well,
saying.
well,
let's do our
so
part.
I guess the board or the town has to have some idea of what they want to base the fee structure on. Somebody can come in and say, well, it's $130,000 worth of material, so that's what the value of the permit is. It's like, you can't just drop a pile of lumber on the ground and have it appear into a house. You're gonna have to pay somebody to build it.
Right.
So labor's got to get figured in there some way. Maybe the value of the contractor's markup is something that doesn't get reflected quite so accurately, but there's risk in there that you can't account for, right?
And I'm sure we have a lot of people in Granby too that they general contract their own property. They sub everything out, obviously to save money. So again, that's something I look at as well.
Yeah.
Well, you got some homework to do.
Yep,
Just forewarning the board that.
Yeah,
coming
no,
back in front of
definitely.
them
Right.
Definitely, I
At some
think.
point.
yep.
The discussions have been occurring upstairs, but
Yeah.
we haven't decided to bring it forward yet.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important. I think we need to always continue to look at different options and what's available, and to make sure that we are obtaining the revenue that we should be obtaining as well.
Well, that's actually the driving force behind the whole thought of it, and actually this relates back to the classes I'm going through now. It's the structure of the coursework is that this isn't supposed to be a losing proposition for the town. It's not supposed to be a moneymaker,
Right.
but if a segment of the safety complex that the town depends on can break even, then it's money that doesn't have to be set aside and can go to the fire department or the police department or the Girl Scout cookies or whatever.
Well, that's my biggest thing is that the money that's being taken in is paying for the actual department, the services that are being provided. Because it shouldn't, we shouldn't be, obviously, if, a person's going out there doing an inspection and, it's costing the town $60 and we're only charging $55, then obviously there's a problem. Something simple as that.
Well,
Right.
and it's something that needs to be updated
On a regular basis.
Yes.
And the issue becomes is sometimes it requires multiple inspections when we're charging for based on one inspection.
Right.
And I know that's happened before too.
We've done that with the plumbing inspector.
Right,
We
that's
had
something
that
that-
issue.
That's definitely something that needs to be addressed, because that particular, we paid the plumbing inspector 3 times, but they've only paid once, and that's losing.
Because there's certain stages in each.
Well, he
They-
goes
they-
out, it's not complete, so he gives a rough inspection. Then he goes out again, they've got half the work done, or 3/4 of the work, so now
done.
he has to go out again or re-inspect because something wasn't done right.
Right.
We're not getting the money for that re-inspection, but
Right.
we're paying him his $35 to go out and do the
Right.
inspection.
And those things, if we're doing that where it is the, if you will, the customer's problem where they went out to inspect and he comes out there and things weren't done correctly and they have to come out and re-inspect, well, that's something that we need to take into consideration of how we can charge for
The
that.
electrical and the plumbing,
Permits, that's something that's allowable. Under the building process, the actual structural process, there's a fee assessed once. And there's any number of, how many times are you gonna go out there? Well, once they hit a glitch, it's like, oh, gee, can you come out and figure this out for me? It's like, that's not my job, but it's gotta be done safely in the end.
Or for everybody out there, has to talk with the architect, then he has to talk with the engineer, then he has to talk with the construction firm, then he has to talk with the homeowner. Case in point, that one out on, Barton Street.
Right.
He's had probably,
I've been there a dozen times and there's only a hole in the ground.
Okay, and you've talked to the homeowner probably
Oh, God.
20 times, okay?
Perhaps there's.
But what we're saying is,
The
is
services we need to provide.
right, it's just becomes, sometimes what we're charging isn't what we should be charging. And we're just trying to address some of those situations, that's all.
Makes sense.
Yes, it does. Do you have any other questions of the building inspector?
No, I'm good.
Can we start charging fees for zoning?
No, that's not allowed. That's not allowed. Nice try. Nice try.
Because I'm spending quite a bit of time, I'm spending an equal amount of time right now with zoning issues. But that's just what it is.
We won't go there.
Yeah.
But, okay, the town used to,
An employee, town's gotta
On
cover some
occasion,
of
we
it.
need to go and reassess
Right, absolutely.
situations that.
Yes.
And I think we just did it recently with all the different fees associated with the town,
The planning board, I think, is looking at
the
revising
planning
some
board,
of
but our, geez, Kathy Kelly Regan. You know, looked
the. Yeah,
at
we
all
did
those.
hers, and I
Right.
believe conservation is gonna be coming in front of you, looking to revise their fee schedule
Right, so
too, so,
It's,
you know,
absolutely.
it's a cost of doing business.
Mhm.
I'm done, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very
Greg.
much,
Sure.
Greg.
Highway Department isn't coming in today because he's down in the eastern part of the state dealing with statewide issues regarding highway departments. They want to talk, they're talking about mutual aid and things of that nature. The police chief doesn't come in until 5:15. Would you like to address like the public facilities, public buildings budget and my budgets?
Take a little break.
Well, how long of a break you taking?
Go to the men's room.
You need a 5-minute break?
5-minute
5-minute recess.
5-minute recess.
I'll make a motion that we recess for 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we call the meeting back to order. Yeah. What time is it?
What time is it?
It is, that time, Mike.
5:44?
5:44. 4:44.
4:44. Sorry. Whew. Chief, you're late.
All in favor? Aye.
With the fact that the highway department isn't available for its 4:45 slot, does the board wish to move the police department up into the highway department slot?
I'm fine with that, and I would say if anybody has any concerns or questions, be glad to, they can review the budget.
Yes.
Yes.
We can
Yeah.
give them a copy and they can
Yes.
review it, and if they have questions, they can either contact the police
Police
chief
chief
or
or
the
whatever.
board.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And GQ
And we can
does
do
all
that with all the rest of them, if we can move.
Right, so we can move forward. So,
Yes.
again, if anybody has any questions or concerns about it,
Chair's right here if you want it.
move forward with it.
Would you like me to switch them for you?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Your name?
Al Wishart, Chief of Police.
Okay, Chief, do you want to just briefly go over your budget and the changes?
Sure. So, like I'm sure all the other departments, we were given our parameters of basically a 2% overall increase. These budgets are reflective of those guidelines. There aren't too many major changes. The biggest change that you'll recognize, you're already basically aware of, is that we are going from more part-time employees to more full-time employees with less part-timers. So you see a budget change there in those two line items. One, obviously the full-time one going up and the part-time one going down. That's one of the biggest changes you'll see. In case the board's curious, we're going from 9 full-time and 10 part-time to 10 full-time and 6 part-time. So that's the reason for that, which you'll see the largest change there. The next kind of change is related to the overtime, and much of our overtime is related to contractual obligations in terms of how we fill shifts, things like that. There's also some increase I had to kind of budget in there because we're going to We are expecting to have to send someone to the academy, at least one person, likely two. One will be in already, and likely the second person will start next year as well. So there's some increases there. On that same police budget, you'll notice in the incentive line, 5142, there's an increase there as well. That is related to a couple of things. One, it's the 2% increase that everybody sees. We also had an officer get a higher degree. He went from an associate's degree level to a bachelor's degree level. And then we had a part-time officer, one of the part-time officers who's going full-time has a degree, so that goes up as well.
Just in regards to that, is there a time frame so when that occurs? So does it happen right away? So if someone had an associate's degree and say it was, and I just got my bachelor's degree, does that take effect right away, or is there a time?
So what we did was, and I don't recall now what negotiations we did it in, but we set up a system that they have to let me know a year before, the prior year before. So in other words, so I can prepare for this coming budget what it is. So they have to notify me in advance that they expect to have their degree in March or whatever of that following year. So we can budget for it, and they would get it prorated by quarter. So if they went, so for instance, if an officer had a bachelor's degree for 3/4 of the year, they would get 3/4 at 10% and 1/4 at 20%. So it's prorated to the quarter. You'll also notice in the police budget, the training line has gone up a little bit. That's again related to people going to the police academy, uniforms, things like that. The tuition, I'm sorry, not the uniforms, the tuition, some of the medical clearance that people have to go through before they are allowed to go to the academy. Again, when we reduce the number of part-timers, once these people have gone to the academy, that number will be reduced by that amount, which is, you know, off the top of my head, I believe it's close to $5,000. I'm trying to see what else. The uniforms, again, that's up a bit, and that will go down again because of the fewer part-timers. It's up because the people that are going to the academy, they have to buy all the equipment and uniforms and books, and the list is pretty extensive. So that's an increase which we would expect to go away the following year. As far as the police department, those are the major changes. Again, it stays within the 2% increase that parameters that we were given. Dispatch is largely the same as last year with a 2% increase. There isn't really any major changes there. Again, dispatch and police were pretty bare-boned in terms of budgets and coverage. So I don't know if you have any questions on the dispatch piece of it, but that's very straightforward, basically the same as last year. And as far as the auxiliary and the dog officer, those are the same. The auxiliaries, I think it's $100 over, because we're trying to keep that number. I said $100 over that 2% parameter, because we're hoping to keep that number at 9 possible, and that would allow us to do that. So. And the dog officer is less than the 2% change. I think the only other thing, if you don't have any questions on that I would mention would be the cruiser. And we had put forth to Capcom 2 possibilities, one being a gas version, which was somewhere in the $45,000 range, and then a hybrid version, which is in the $52,000 range. We did that because we were told that if there was a hybrid option available and we didn't use it, or we didn't buy it, there would be some implications in the green community status.
What happens is under the DOER rules and regs, in the past, police cruisers were exempt vehicles because they did not have a hybrid version of the LTDs, the Explorers, the Tauruses, I forget what they go by.
Right.
Whatever they classify them as. Now, for next year, Ford has come out with a Interceptor, a sedan that is a plug-in electric gas vehicle, or an SUV, Explorer, I think they're calling it now, right?
It's a Interceptor SUV, but it's an Explorer.
But basically,
for all
it's an
intents and
Explorer now, they don't consider it a Taurus.
purposes. Right.
That is a hybrid that, as it is operating on the gas engine, it's regenerating or recharging the battery. It doesn't have to be plugged in. It's self-regenerating, self-charging, for lack of a better word. Okay? So, what we had planned on doing at one point was putting, based upon getting the same thing that we have out here, that a plug-in, we were putting EV chargers up at the police station that was gonna be paid for 60% by DOER VW grant money, or penalty money. In light of that, what we are doing is saying, we still want to put EV chargers up there to be able so our employees, if they have a plug-in vehicle, can turn around and utilize that. And I still believe that if the police chief car or an unmarked cruiser is ordered and it has a plug-in type of system, that should be charged up at the police station. So we still want to go forward with the 4 charging units that won't be charged to a credit card for you to be able to use it, but they have what's called an RFID card. And basically it's a card, we go up, we hit it on the unit, and we're able to charge on town cost at about 14 cents an hour, basically. Talking to the police chief, originally they were going to be put behind the police station. However, due to the change right now with the SUV Interceptor, whatever it goes by, that we don't want employees taking the spots of the cruisers under the Sally Port. So what we're thinking about doing is putting the 4 charging units on the side where the main entrance is going into the police station. We have those parking spots there, with the fact that if we get one for the police chief, when it needs to be charged, he would bring it on the side, charge it, and then when it's done charging, bring it out back onto the Sally Port with all the other vehicles. That's the way we want to proceed with this at this point. Am I correct in what we talked about?
Right. The problem becomes, as a piece of that, you're absolutely right, is we were informed that, and correct me if I'm wrong, if those are put in using grant money, you cannot park a non-plug-in hybrid there. Is that right?
Correct.
And so literally, all of our vehicles would not be able to be parked under the
Undercover.
under the Sally Port for the next foreseeable future because they're not plugins. So
How does that affect the parking there, though?
So if you have 4 spaces that are gonna now be just for that, and you don't have 4 vehicles there charging, even if you have 1 vehicle charging, how does that affect the, I know the parking there is kind of tight as it is now.
Well, rarely do I see all the spaces being used.
no, I would say there will be times. There will be times like if there's a big meeting going on, or maybe if the fire department has a training night or something like that. Generally speaking, it won't be an issue. It will be from time to time, but it will be that you could say that pretty much anywhere where it's going to be overwhelmed.
Okay.
You know, and realistically, doesn't mean that somebody with a charger could park there.
But we're also looking at, I believe it was during regular business hours, is when you couldn't park a non.
It could be.
In there.
I'm not sure. I'm not aware of
I
that.
think it was during regular
Okay.
business hours. So if we say our normal business hours are 8 to 5 or 7 to 5 or whatever, you have a meeting at night that's non-business hours, they can park there. Okay? That's the way I see it.
And honestly, it happens from time to time now, and people are pretty respectful. They stay out of the way of the emergency vehicles. They park in front of each other, but out of the way. It doesn't happen a lot, but.
Any other questions for the chief?
I did have one. And we started talking about the vehicles and charging them, and forgot what the question was, so. I don't know.
And how are the tasers working out?
So far, great. We haven't had to use them, which is a great thing. We did have that one situation that happened in the school a while back that was resolved because of them.
So just the officer touching the,
He just, all he had to do was say that once it got there and the individual knew we had it, he just, I'm done, and that was it. So, luckily we haven't had to use them. It is.
where otherwise there would have been probably gunfire.
Very well could have been, and, we were very fortunate that the people that responded and handled the situation did it, very appropriately and calmly and professionally, and, again, no one has a crystal ball, but if we don't have those there, who knows what happens?
Right, well, it's nice to have that in the force continuum.
Absolutely.
It definitely is.
Absolutely.
What is the life expectancy of it? Is it a certain time, like, things gotta be
The
replaced?
tasers?
Yeah.
I believe it, I don't have the documentation with me, but I believe it's 3 to 5 years. I think that's what they say. They have some programs that you can basically opt into where you, it's almost like leasing. It's basically like a taser leasing program. Some point down the road, when the majority of our units get to that point, we may, depending on the cost of it, we might want to look at it. We've been really fortunate that for the past 2 years, we've had a confidential business donor donate money so we could purchase more, which is great, because rarely do we need 5 or 6 of them, but you take it to a weekend like Charter Day and we've got several officers out there. It's great to be able to have them. So.
The name of that individual who?
Well, yeah. Yeah. No, we really appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate it. It's a substantial donation for one of those. So. Yeah.
How far are we away from having most of the officers having?
That's actually another program that Taser offers. Well, we have, when this is all plays out, we'll basically have 16 officers if you don't count me in that. And we have, so I think we'd be about 10 shy.
Right now, what do they cost? Per?
Roughly 2,500 if I remember correctly. Something like that. But they do have other programs where they will outfit an entire department, again, in that, you have to commit to it for whatever number of years it is.
I just think it's beneficial to somehow look at it sooner than later, to make sure all the officers have the same equipment going out there. Like you say, one officer may not have the ability to wait for the other officer who has the taser to show up.
And other than that, we have, believe it's 6 now. We have, there's almost always 2 or 3 of them sitting there for use.
Okay.
Yeah, the only time that we don't would be, again, I say that. Charter Day.
But you have enough to cover.
To cover that area.
Shifts, yeah. Shift
Oh, okay.
coverage,
That's why I
absolutely.
might make sure.
No,
Okay.
no. Shift coverage, we absolutely have enough.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
Absolutely. Would it be nice to have that on? Yeah.
How many people per shift, know?
No. We have. On-
Which
on
was
the
my
regular
concern, to
time.
make sure that everyone on the shift has it.
They do. They
use.
absolutely do. Yeah. No, they do.
I agree with you, though.
Yeah. So, well, that was just my concern.
Okay, that's fine.
And you read right into that.
Thank you.
I read your mind, didn't I?
Pretty much. Get good at that. Knowing what I'm thinking, what I'm not saying. I don't have any other questions in regards to it. I think it was a nice budget.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All you have to do now is wait for the growing of the finance. It comes with the territory. All right, so, where are we now?
we have,
Well, the issue is do we want to continue on with public buildings? Can you hand me Jay's packet, because mine is by department, but that's by presentation. There you go. Okay. Thank you.
Good night. You too, have a good one.
Again, as if someone comes in and needs additional information, we will supply the budget sheet to them, and they can ask questions that they deem necessary.
okay.
Okay. The public buildings. As this board has indicated, effective for fiscal year 2020, we will not be participating in the shared services program. Okay? If you go to page 2 of the budgets, you can see I have outlined 3 full-time positions, 1 part-time position. We are looking at a full-time maintenance position. We were looking at a full-time custodial position, a full-time landscaping position, and a part-time landscaping position, which would be 40 hours a week for 39 weeks, which is basically spring to fall. That person would mainly take care of the park areas. We've had complaints from the GAA about Brown Ellison not being mowed on a regular basis. We've had complaints about Dufresne Park not being mowed on a regular basis. That would be this person's main responsibilities at this point, okay, to address at least those 2 fields, and maybe even dealing with the ball fields out at the school during the summer months.
I guess, when talking about the fields and stuff like that, would it be cheaper or less expensive to contract that out to somebody?
But the problem is that I have with contracting out. Usually, we'll contract with Champion Lawn Care, whomever. We say we want the ball fields mowed once every 2 weeks. Well, we got a big rain event that comes walking in the door, and all of a sudden, we've got a large growth spurt in 1 week of time. Are we going to get Champion to come out and deal with it as needed, or would it be better for us to have a person on staff who can respond to those type of situations? Not that it's going to happen all the time, Glenn.
No, I'm just wondering what would be the offset, because here we're talking the part-time $28,000, is that right?
$23,000.
$23,000, but also the insurance could go along with that, right?
No.
Because they are considered.
They are an employee. So there'll be workers' comp, there'll be FICA, Medicare match, there'll be workers' comp that goes along with it.
Bang into retirement.
No, not necessarily, because
You start over certain hours.
it's 20 hours a week per year, so he may, but we may cut back. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
This
just-
is just a budget tool.
No, and I
Okay.
know that, Chris. I understand that. I'm just wondering, is that
But you're still going to pay the overhead costs of any company you hire to come in. You still have to pay their overhead costs, because if they hire people, you're going to deal with their maintenance, their wages, their overhead costs.
right? But I'm just wondering, if we're looking for this person for a specific area to cover, I'd like kind of see what a private contractor would charge to do it. I mean, is there a cost saving? If not, and there may not be. You know, someone could come in and say, you know, I can cut your ball fields and do everything you need to do, but it's going to cost you $45,000 for that time frame. You know, I'm just thinking too is that 2 other things is that we're not using our equipment, which will cost the town money.
But we've already got the equipment on.
But it's wear and tear on equipment that eventually will catch up. You know, after you're mowing, you know, the fields and stuff like that. I just think it's something to explore. I'm not saying something we need to do. But I think it's something to be.
Well, can contact
explore,
Champion and see
you know.
what they
Yeah.
would say.
You know.
But how, you know, what are you going to want? Once a week? Are you going to want it once every other week? Are you going to want it
All I'm trying to say is, I don't know what to put out there, because I know GAA gets complained if it grows over 1 inch.
Well, we
You
can
know?
look at it. I mean, mostly people cut their lawns once a week. In the spring, you have a certain amount of time. The summer is a little more, and then usually it's a certain staging that they're cutting it. So I'm just curious. I'm not saying it's something we need to do.
Because, you know, it's cutting, weed whacking, the whole 9 yards,
Right.
doing everything.
But again, you could have someone come out and they do everything. They cut it the right way. It's, you know, just the wear and tear and stuff like that on our. You know, you're not just talking about a lawnmower or something like that, but you're also talking about the vehicle that's going out there. Another trailer may be needed and stuff like that. So I just wonder, you know.
I don't see the need for additional trailers and stuff, because we already have trailers. We already have low-boy trailers. And it'd just be a matter of,
Yeah.
instead of having it sit up at the highway garage not being used, that
Well,
it's
that's
now
good.
being used.
Right.
Okay. But I don't have a problem contacting, I'll
Yeah,
contact Champion.
Yeah, I appreciate. I'm just curious. I mean, like I said, it might be a wash. It may,
They don't,
you know.
Champion, I think, does it in Granby here?
Well, you got Champion, well, the school uses Champion on occasion.
To mow?
I see bills going out to Champion Lawn Care, yes. I don't know if they use them to fertilize or whatever.
They usually, Champion, from what I understand, what I've been told by the owner, all they do is go out and fertilize and stuff. That's their main objective.
But I'm just saying, but I know we do use them at the school. Do we want to contact, who is it, Lamoureux?
Yeah.
Sean Lamoureux, I think, does lawn care services. I'm just trying to get a price.
That's all.
But this isn't just for lawn mowing and stuff. This
The
is,
part-timer is.
The part-timer is. That's what the
Yeah,
bulk
The
of that.
part-timer
Part-timer
is.
is.
the rest of
The
it's,
full-timer
That's what I'm talking about. It's part-time.
is
Oh,
for
okay.
basically
Yeah.
all groundskeeping. It'll be
in building
leaf
maintenance.
removal, huh?
In building maintenance, no?
No. Landscaping will be groundskeeping, which will be mowing, plowing, shoveling, snow blowing, leaf removal,
Yeah, okay.
pruning of the bushes,
Mm-hmm.
fertilizing, whatever. Whatever we have to do for all our town buildings.
And it's important to remember too, when you talk about fertilizing, and I don't know who we'd be hiring, but they need to be licensed to put down fertilizer.
Yes, they do.
But I'm just saying is, you know, those are the type
One of
of
the reasons I
things.
think why it's contracted out to Champion.
Okay, but
No, okay, no, I'm not saying, I think it's all they do is fertilize.
No, but I'm saying that's probably one reason why it is contracted out, because you have to be licensed
Since-
to put down the fertilizer.
You're right.
But that's what I'm looking at for the landscaper, is to be around to do, like I said, shoveling, snow blowing, the whole.
Pruning, everything of that nature.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We currently have a part-time custodian who works 15 hours a week. But yet, we don't have enough custodial to handle all the buildings. So I'm just replacing the part-timer with a full-timer, going up from 15 hours a week to 40 hours a week.
Which is important to acknowledge, because it's not another full-time position. We're just creating
We're adding
to
15 or 25 hours a week to be able to properly maintain our buildings, so that we don't have to spend additional repair and maintenance costs on these buildings. If we
Right.
can maintain them, they can last longer.
absolutely, and big. Yeah, I definitely need to make sure we're maintaining our buildings correctly and properly.
Okay. And then the full-time maintenance person, currently we share 2 maintenance people with the school, so basically it's going to be a wash. I'm getting one full-timer. Okay, instead of having 2 part-timers.
Right.
Who many people turn around and say, well, they're always riding around in the truck together. How are you getting your bang for your buck? But we won't go down that road.
No, we won't.
Okay. Just so the board knows, and I stated I would ask this question. Under this scenario, potentially the public facilities director may lose his
Position.
job, lose his job with the town. He had asked that we put money in the budget equal to what his salary would be and he could bid on the maintenance position. His salary for FY '20 would be $75,000. 75,029. That would entail us adding another $34,701 to this budget, so that he could apply for it and not take a $35,000 cut in pay if he wanted to apply for the position. I don't know if we want to do that for 1 year to find out where we end up with this, because as I said, he could apply. If he was going to be paid at that level, then he would be responsible for overseeing the work. He would be a working maintenance person, number one. He would oversee custodial and landscaping, and he would report to me. Not to Dave DeRozier, not to somebody else, but to me. I said I'd ask the board if they'd be willing to increase it, and it's up to the board to decide whether they want to agree to that change or not.
Let me ask you something then. So we're talking about the part-time landscaper,
Yep,
which is roughly $24,000.
yep.
Would we need that if we take him on full-time? Would that be something he could do as well? Or, not him particularly, but is that work that one of the other areas can be done and he can pick up some of that area? Would that be possible? I just don't know what the workload would be. I don't know what the workload would be.
Well, the issue is with this full-time maintenance position. Instead of just dealing with work orders only, this person would be responsible to have a schedule put aside. We need to change filters. We need to deal with,
Yes.
this is what you do on a weekly basis. This is what you do on a monthly basis.
The working supervisor.
Right.
Yes.
But also, under maintenance, we don't wait till the furnace doesn't blow hot air to change the filter. No, you will change the filters once a quarter. You will change this once a month. You'll change it. We will strip and wax the floor every 6 months or once a year. Instead of, the grime is so thick on it, you can't see the original color of the floor. You know what I'm saying? Those type of things, okay? That's what I want the full-time maintenance person to do. But if we're gonna pay the additional $35,000 for rounding purposes, that person then is responsible
For the grounds and everything.
for overseeing the grounds, and if someone needs help, they're out there.
There.
They're out there plowing along with this other person, so we have 2 plow trucks instead of 1 dealing with the, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I see exactly what you're saying, and I agree 100%. And that's kind of why I said, when we talk about.
See, the thing with the part-time landscaper, if I take it out of payroll, it's gonna end up down in contracted services somewheres, okay? So, I don't know, that may not be a wash, or may not be a savings. It'll be a wash. It'll come out of payroll, but may end up down in contracted services, okay? I see us spending $23,000 or $24,000 or $25,000 no matter what, whether it's contracted or whether it's done in-house. Okay?
Right, but I just think
And
regardless,
Yeah.
it's the other things, the benefits that go
Right.
along with it. That is to me is the cost saving, because obviously someone else is picking that up as an employer. But gosh, I don't want someone to lose their job by all means. And if we're thinking a lot of, I guess what I'm looking at too is that if we can increase the continuing and improve the continuing maintenance on our buildings, then I think it's well worth to spend the money. Most definitely. I mean, and that's it. And to have someone that is experienced and has the knowledge and the qualifications.
He's got
To do-
5 years in the town.
Right, and that knows a lot of things about our buildings and And a lot of things that can be fixed, and again, can be that working supervisor where it's hands-on. As you noted, you know what, we need a second plow truck out there that we're going to plow. You know, we need to get a room painted. Well, here's the hand, I'm going to help you paint. That's absolutely.
Yes.
So to me, is a working
Not
supervisor.
to just be sitting at a desk
Right.
directing.
A staff of people,
Right.
okay? I expect you to be out there turning the screw, taking, you know,
Well,
changing.
again, right, which is a working supervisor. You're the person that's at the desk giving out the directives.
Yes. You have your morning meeting with your full-timers, you do that, and then you go to work along with them.
No,
I think that we're on the right path, as far as I'm concerned, what you're saying. I think that what we need to do is, I think, indicate that that individual has a maintenance schedule for each and every building that they're responsible for and the outside of it. I think that has to be established. I think, you know, just sitting down and making sure that certain areas are consistently looked at, like filters or whatever.
For example, summertime.
When the outside lights were on, the outside wall was covered with dead bugs, Okay? Well, we're not gonna put up with that now. You are out there power washing our building.
No, and Chris, and again, I like what you're saying, and Steve as well, and it's the, really the ownership of that particular position, and with you and that person would come up with a schedule when things need to be done on a regular basis.
We will walk each building.
Yep.
When we implement this, we walk every building. This needs to be done weekly, this needs to be done daily, this needs to be whatever. If you don't have a work order out there that you need to go unplug a toilet,
Right.
you know, change a ballast, whatever the work order is, when you don't have the work orders, you're expected to maintain this stuff on a regular basis. So would the board be willing to increase by the $35,000 to have a working supervisor?
I'm in favor of it, and I think it's at least just for 1 year, and then we can reevaluate it after 1 year and see if, you know, if we feel like we got our best bang for our buck, if you will.
Yep. No, I don't have a problem. I said I would ask
Yeah.
for this,
Yep.
for the 20, because we still don't know if the school's gonna wanna keep him, or if they're gonna
Right.
get rid. They haven't made their decision yet,
Right,
what
and
they're
I'm
planning on doing.
I'm
And
sure him being a town employee too, is, you know, concerned with that. Absolutely, yeah. As I would be, so.
so, but I did say, so if the board has no problem, I will increase the full-time wage account from the 115, I'll add another 35,000 to it.
I certainly don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion, or?
No,
Okay.
no, we're fine.
And that's only if the school decides not to retain his services.
Right.
Right.
And then we'll just advertise for a full-time maintenance person, and that's it. Okay? Most of the other things, as you can see, it's fairly straightforward. The only other change we have basically is vehicle R&M. They've never had a line item to maintain the public buildings pickup truck. It's been having some issues this year, so now we're trying to budget a dollar amount for that. Most of the other stuff, the COA repairs, that was to replace the outside heat pumps here, or air condensing units, and a couple of the furnaces. That was done. The nice thing about that was we spent $30,000. We got $8,400 back from Columbia Gas for the energy savings that we implemented, which I thought was great. The public safety repairs is, we had to do 2 items this year. One, the softening system that was installed when the building was implemented was never permitted by DEP. So DEP issued us a letter of non-compliance, so we had to go out and identify what we were doing. That required us hiring a outside engineer to come in who works with DEP on a regular basis. They identify the well, they identify the line coming in, what happens when it hits the mechanical room, what happens to the water, the discharge water from the unit, the whole 9 yards. The other issue is the current softening, or the softening unit that was originally installed, didn't work. So we had to get a company to come in and replace that equipment. So right now I know that the softening unit is working and that we are currently in the process of submitting an application to DEP to get that system permitted by DEP. Okay? Those are the 2 big things we did in 19 that we don't have to do in 20.
So I remember last year, we were going over the budget. We were talking about a grant writer and some other thing. And as
That's going to be under the Board of Selectmen's budget. That's the next one coming
we're
up.
not there.
That's the next one
I've already
coming up.
made it. I've already made it to that one.
Yes, okay, that's the next one we're coming up with.
I've turned this page over. I moved forward.
Okay. Okay. All right. A couple things going on in the Selectmen's budget. Number one, I'm looking at budgeting for a planner/conservation agent, full-time. I believe that we're at the point now where we need a professional here, 40 or 35 hours a week, 40 hours a week, to deal with the applications as they're walking in the door. To be the on-site person so we don't have to call a planning board member. Oh, here's their number, try getting a hold of them and see what they say. I want somebody on-site doing that.
Do we need a full-time person though?
I'm saying half-time planner, half-time conservation agent, so that they're not trying to get a hold of either planning or conservation members. Plus, we're having an issue with trying to get people to join the Conservation Commission.
No, it's been an issue with a lot of the boards.
Okay, so if we can start putting in full-timers or people available for when someone needs to come in that they can go to as part of the permitting process and get the answers and not wait 2 weeks for a planning board to meet or 2 weeks for a conservation, and all of a sudden, oh, we don't have a quorum, so we had to cancel. So now it's another 2 weeks. They can get answers quicker. That's why I like to propose hiring that position. Okay?
I mean, I do see the need, and there's a lot of towns that have actually full-time planners.
Yes, but I don't see the need for a full-time planner.
Right.
But if we try advertising for a 20-hour position, you're not going to get any response. So I'm saying if we can get people, because there are people out there who know both conservation and planning, that we can try and woo them to come to the town of Granby. The other item I was looking at doing is a part-time clerk position. Basically, I was looking at 5 hours a day to come in, probably be a good mother's hours, 9 to 2, things of that nature. Basically to come in and take some of the workload off of Kathy. Or if I'm out sick, Kathy's not doing the work or two, or if Kathy's out sick, I'm doing the work or two. We still have this person who comes in during the prime hours of the day to come in and assist us. The other part of that is I had 31,740 budgeted for the last couple of years. Do we apply $8,400 towards a grant writer, or do we want to increase that to $10,000 as seed money to get them up and running?
Two things.
Yep.
I definitely think we need someone to assist yourself and Kathy. But on the same note, I don't know if I want something more than that, than someone part-time. And the reason I'm thinking about it, two things, is, I guess, the knowledge and experience that you have. So if Chris Martin wasn't here next year, what does that put the town of Granby in, position-wise? So is at one point, is it a time where we need to, and I'm not saying to go anywhere, is it a point in
I'm
time
going to get
where?
hit by a bus.
Right.
Or I stroke out or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't know.
I was gonna be fall downstairs,
But
but,
I'm just saying, you never know. You never
but
know.
that,
I agree with you
and that's
on
where I'm
that
going, is that, are we ready to take something like that on? And I don't believe we are, and that's my concern right now, where, should we be looking at someone who is, an assistant to you that can cover other responsibilities? You know, kind of like that multitasking position, but also is taking some of the workload from you, but also is taking some workload from Kathy. That in-between person.
I'd rather deal with Kathy first, because she is out there straight, period.
But that's what I'm saying, but I want that person to be available. I have, you know, just like you answer phones,
Yeah.
I would expect that person to be able to answer phones and take
That's what
some-
well, basically, we want to make that one of the prime responsibilities of the part-time clerk. There is a phone that is on that desk, basically where the veterans agent
Right.
sits now. That person will answer the phone, so Kathy can concentrate on doing minutes, not worry about answering phone. You know, she can deal with the stuff that she's backlogged on. Right?
But that doesn't help me out if Chris is gone tomorrow. That's a concern. I
The
look
problem
at.
that you're gonna have is if Chris is gone tomorrow, as I say, everybody can be replaced. It just takes a time frame to replace them. Same thing with
yes.
Kathy. If Kathy went out and got hit by a bus tomorrow or died of a heart attack, yeah, we'd have a hole, but we'd have to find a way of getting that person up to that knowledge base. I hate to say it, 18 years here. So I carry a lot of history. Dave DeRosa carries a lot of history. It's the same thing. What happens if he went out and got hit by a bus? Okay? Or you know, Kathy Kelly Reagan or Chief Wishart, or you know what I'm saying? We just created the lieutenant's position to help.
Right, to help, but there are people that are there that can run something temporarily. I don't see any.
Kathy could do that here.
Okay.
Kathy has a good sense of my thought processes. She wouldn't be able to put a budget together, but I wouldn't expect her to be able to put a budget together. She could limp us along,
Okay.
okay?
So is that something we acknowledge with Kathy and look at someone underneath her?
So that she can devote herself to learning
Yes.
more of the,
If that's what she wishes to do.
right.
And I'm not, if that's something she wishes to do, then,
She'll say no, but she'll do it.
well, then but again, it puts us in the same thing, is that, you know, again, I'm looking down the road where something does happen, we need to make sure that we're protecting the town, and that's a concern.
But it costs money, that's the problem.
Well, when this is budget time, I understand it costs money, but it could cost a lot more money if we're not prepared for it.
No, you'd have to take over as town administrator.
Yeah, as I said. we're not prepared for it.
But I do understand that there is that hole there. But
Right.
are we at a size where we can afford, like a South Hadley, they have an assistant town administrator, okay? A lot of towns have the assistant town manager, town administrator, but we don't have the tax base, the revenue stream to afford that luxury sometimes.
I think we're on the cusp of that. I think we're heading in that direction. And well, like you said, the revenues to actually, I know it's like between a rock and a hard spot. It really and truly is. I tend to agree with what you're saying, because I've already had this conversation that he doesn't want me in his seat right now. By no means.
He's trying to kick me out, but.
No. It's like one of those things I said to myself, you know, your experience and your expertise and what you do.
Don't forget, I've got 34 years' experience in municipal government.
But how do you protect the town?
Well,
But Glenn,
yourself, How long you been in your position at the jail?
24 years I've been there.
You've been there 24 years. What would happen if you left tomorrow for some
Well-
unforeseen reason?
But I always, so, and you bring that up, Chris, and this is something I look at. We always look at what our succession is.
Yes.
And not to quote Bill Belichick, but next man up, next person up. Is there someone that's ready that could take that position, or be able to? You look at the police department. There's someone there that could. I think any one of the supervisors could get you through to a point where they need to get to before a new
Right.
chief is hired. The highway department. I think there's people in there that can get you to that next point.
No,
You may,
to be honest with you, no. I believe for the highway department to have that, you need to create a foreman position in there. Okay? Who is that worker next to the
Yeah.
daily grunt people, but also has supervisory capabilities that should be learning from day. But
It goes back to the same thing we just kind of
Right.
talked about, is having a working supervisor, maintenance person.
Right.
And that's maybe that's something that we should, I guess, think about as well, as for the highway department, because these are real things that could,
And actually, I've been saying this for the last 2 budget seasons. Right now, you have an aging
yes.
upper management issue. Dave DeRozier is talking about leaving in the next 2 to 3 years, or 5 years at the most. Kathy Kelly Reagan's talking about leaving in the next 5 years. The tax collector is talking about leaving in the next 5 years. The treasurer is talking about leaving in the next 5 years. Myself, I'm saying I want to put in at least another 7 years. Okay? I want to work to age 70. Who knows? But within the next 5 to 7 years, you're going to lose all your upper echelon people who are going to walk out with a wealth of knowledge that can't be replaced.
You're
no,
supporting my claim.
I am supporting it, but the problem becomes is, how do we fund it?
Well, I guess that's what I'm looking at, and that's the piece I'm struggling with. How do we fund it? But also we can't ignore it. Right. It needs to be a conversation that we are having, because I think it's important, because we need to look at how we're protecting the town.
Right.
And obviously, it's always going to come down to the voters on what they think, what they believe. But again, we talked a little bit about Kathy. So is that something that, maybe Kathy she may or may not want to do? I don't know.
But if she can learn 75% of my job, you can limp along with the other 25%.
But that's what I'm saying, is that if we could abstain, avoid for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
Need be, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So if something does happen, that's something we can do, where we're not just like, oh no, what do we do? We need to find someone quickly to come in here and
Right.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I agree with that. It's the dollar factor.
right.
That's the problem that I'm having.
So absolutely, and we talk about the part-time position. So is there room to say we need to look at, and I don't know if we can or can't, but upgrading another position to take on more additional responsibility?
And I'm saying right now, Kathy and I have worked together for, 9 years? No. How long have we worked together? 10, 11, I think 11 or 12 years we've worked together. She's seen how I do my jobs. She could be a temporary
Okay.
replacement for me.
And I go back to, is that something we should acknowledge and say, okay?
I think it's a discussion worthy of having with Kathy,
Okay.
to be honest with you. I know she'll be hesitant because she doesn't trust her abilities sometimes, but I think she could handle the job very easily.
I just wanted to, and that's what I'm saying, is that we're preparing for the future.
Let's put it
Best that we
let's
can.
put it this way. When I go away on vacation, 9 times out of 10, Kathy runs the office. She'll call me on vacation when there's something she's not quite sure how to
Right.
handle. But she can
is
run
a
the
plus.
office for a week if it came down to it, when I go on
Yeah.
vacation or
Yeah.
go out of state or go wherever.
She does, because we know you take vacations, not many, as I can recall, but you do take vacation.
I take a
vacations,
day
so-
here and day there. I
Yeah,
do it that
it's-
way
so-
instead. But the thing is like I said, I can rely on her.
Yeah.
If she's not sure, I'm a phone call away. But 99% of the times, I'm lucky if I get 1 or 2 calls in the
Yeah.
course of that week.
And Chris, you made it perfectly clear, as you said, our
Upper echelon, yeah.
top leadership is not, they're not, well, obviously they're aging, but it's 8 times service on a job, we're thinking about maybe retiring in the future. And I think we need to do our part to kind of prepare for that. Just sitting in this seat now I think it's our responsibility to prepare for that future
Yes.
the best that we can, so.
I agree. Totally agree.
So, but, yes, I agree with you. I just don't know how to fund trying to do that.
Yeah.
And the space to put them in. Part of it is the space to put them in.
Well, again, like I said, maybe we look at who we have now and additional responsibilities are given to that person, but the same thing, that person is compensated for those additional
Accordingly,
responsibilities.
yes, accordingly,
Yes,
yes.
where you can say, this is coming off my plate, you are gonna do this, you're gonna get to understand this, know this is gonna be yours now,
Yep. Yep.
so, okay. You said Board of Selectmen, their budget stuff.
Well, I'm just, like I said, we need to move forward, but yet I know it's going to
It's
foster a
right.
lot of discussion that's on the
It's
floor.
not easy, absolutely, but it's real. And, I always look at that. What's our succession and how, we need to prepare for something that could or may happen. That's what we need to do. It's our responsibility.
Yes.
And that we're not leaving the town short somewhere.
Yep.
All right.
So,
I mean, I'm okay with that, and plus I'd like to, go down that road too, we talked about as far as additional responsibilities.
yes.
And if not something, then maybe it's something we should look at for something, a different avenue. if
Yep.
you will.
Yep. No, that's fine.
I think it's time we do.
Certainly do that.
Next.
Next, computer systems. Not a lot of change in there. The only big one is we're looking at doing some upgrading. Currently, we have our own email server on site. What I want to do is upgrade our current email server to basically go to Office 365 and have everything done, stored on the cloud instead of stored locally. That's about a $13,000 cost to, number one, decommission our current email server and convert it up to the cloud. In addition to, we have basically 2 email servers, email systems. One is Outlook, one is our .gov server. Some use .gov, some use Outlook. Basically, combine them into one system and have it done through the cloud. Decommission the .gov site, decommission our current STMP server, and have it all done through one.
Is there cost savings after the initial?
Yes,
cost?
there will be. There will be.
Okay.
My question.
Because it'll make it easier because
That's actually my question.
there will be a cost savings because at some point we may be able to not have to have that server up at the police station. We'll just have a backup unit up there. Those servers run $25,000 when we go to change them over. That could be a potential savings in the future.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the warranty that we have to keep on the hard drives up there, all the other stuff. It's just,
Right, so there's initial cost, but down the road there's cost savings.
yes, yes. As things wear out, we may not have to replace certain pieces of hardware, okay? So basically, that's the big thing going on in '20 is basically dealing with that and dealing with VMware which is basically we have a outdated version of it to bring it up to, so that Windows 10 and stuff will run with it. So, okay. Hey, Jay.
Okay.
Basically, that's all that's happening with that one. Next one is the town accountant budget. Basically, what I'm doing is changing over, because I've been slowly training Kathy how to do some of the stuff on the accounting and payroll software, so that if I do go out and get hit by a bus, people at least get paid. Okay? So, and I know how you rely on your biweekly stipend from the Board of Selectmen. Basically, what it is I'm teaching her how to do certain things, and that way, God forbid.
Right. And that's good. That's exactly what I was kind of talking about before. But on the same, and the same thing, I think someone should be compensated for, if we're going to do more responsibility.
I do compensate her.
Okay.
For doing that, because nine times out of 10 she does it after her regular job.
Okay.
So
Yep.
she's compensated at time and a half.
Okay.
She's compensated at time and a half to do this work. Okay. And if I usually stay in the office while she's doing it. She has questions, and I
No, that's good.
go
Like I
through and
said,
do it. So.
Just goes exactly what I was talking about.
All right,
last.
so, but like I said, the only increase is $50 because postage, the cost of stamps is going up, basically. The audit, we've had the same audit firm for the last, 8 years, 9 years. He charges $20,000, actually $19,500 a year. I'm just planning in case it goes up $5,000. So, legal department. The question I have with the legal department is with the demise of Mr. Ryan, are we going to continue staying with the same firm, or does this board want to go out and do some interviewing? Personally, I think Brian O'Toole's been doing a fairly good job for someone who really was thrust into the role of town council from being assistant town council. Eddie had, 35, 40 years worth of experience in municipal town council. I think that if we give Mr. O'Toole enough time, he'll become as worthwhile as Eddie was to us.
Yeah, and I agree, Chris. And just to the point, as far as Eddie had many, many years of service, and I think he did right by the town, and giving Brian the opportunity. He's taken on some things, and I guess I wouldn't look at this point to go somewhere else unless we had concerns that what we needed wasn't being done or wasn't being done correctly. And if that was the case, I would definitely recommend that we consider, going a different route as a possibility. But if you have more contact with that than we do, so I would be fine keeping Brian and the law
Just give
firm.
him a couple of years to
Yeah.
either fail miserably
Yeah.
or prove he's worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, I definitely don't want him to fail miserably.
But you understand what I'm saying? Is
Yeah, but I think that's, I think, like I said, unless we have reasons, and if anybody feels different, reasons why we should, at this point in time, we should look elsewhere. But I always do think we always make sure we're getting the best that we possibly can for representation.
I will tell you, since Mr. O'Toole came on board, there's more contact between me and town council to discuss every issue that's been going in front of them.
And that's good to hear. That's a positive piece right there.
I think that was one of the quandaries I was under and having difficulty with is, you try to get a hold of town council and 3 days later, he'd finally get back to you. I think Mr. O'Toole, Attorney O'Toole, is actually stepped up to the plate quite a bit.
Yes.
Like I said, Chris, I would take your recommendation on it. Just, you have a lot more interaction with him than obviously the board does or myself does. And you would know better than I think we would.
So, but, All right, that's legal department. Board of Appeals. This all depends upon how much activity goes in front of them, how much they're gonna spend. Right now, the big one is the Granby Bow and Gun Club. That ongoing saga, for lack of a better word. So, and the only reason I increased tuition in meetings is because of the resignation of Don Zabrowski, that the newer members may have to go to 4 additional meetings to be properly trained.
Okay.
Okay. Next one is Public Buildings Utilities, which is a joyous one. Basically, how do I want to say it? The biggest problem that we have right here, right now, is we now took over West Street School. I now have to heat it. I now have to power it, okay? That is basically the major reason why the budget went up versus continuing to stay steady or going down. Because oil for there, I'm planning $20,800 for oil. This year, we've already gone through, let's see. I have my backup sheets behind that to show how I do my calculations. Currently, we've gone through 10,000 gallons of oil for West Street School for this year. And it is, right now, it increased the budget. Don't know what's going to happen with the building. If we decide to tear it down or whatever, we're on budget 193, Jay.
Okay, I'm scrolling down to find it.
It's probably towards the end of your file. And then, like I said, is we have to power it, and that is the same type of a service that we have at the police safety complex, so it can be expensive operating that.
So I think we need to move forward quickly as to what our
Make a decision.
decision on that. So
Right.
obviously, at this point in time, it's costing us money, that building.
Yes,
So it just sit empty.
yes,
So
okay. But I have to plan for it until the board decides, or town meeting decides what we're gonna do. Gasoline, basically it's the rising cost of fuel
yeah,
that
absolutely.
is
And it's hard to
driving.
plan for it. I mean, it goes up and down.
Yeah, and basically I have a spreadsheet behind there. Those are the spreadsheets for power, showing my current use, a projected increase. First one is power, second one is heating oil, third one is natural gas. The spreadsheets, so the board can see how I came to my numbers. Because I know the board has a problem with not knowing how things are derived, so. Okay. I'm just letting you know.
Problem, it's like to understand things, that's all. That's all.
And then, like I said, now we have 194 gasoline. If you look at the spreadsheet behind it, next one down. Sorry. You have the next one down. And basically, I tracked the costs since fiscal year 2003 through fiscal year 19. I usually try and use like a 5-year average.
It'd be nice next year at this time to look at what some, if there are savings, kind of, obviously with oil prices going up and things like that, but some of our buildings that we've, have insulated and made improvements to as far as efficiencies, how that would impact us too.
Well, as Jay mentioned, the public library.
Right.
The old library. Last year, we paid for a month $262 for oil. For a month period this time in the middle of the heating season, the most we paid is $40 for oil. 19 gallons, 15 gallons, instead of, 100, 75, all that, okay?
That's huge.
So that we can see immediately we're going with the heat pump to minus 30 degrees, Jay?
Minus 14.
Minus 14 degrees, and then the oil kicking in. So we have seen a savings there that'll reflect in next year's budget,
Right.
but I can go through and if need be, show the board the actual deliveries that we've been getting.
Well, yeah, I think
Okay.
it's nice, not just for the board, but for the public to see where some of the cost savings
Yes.
are, because, just talk about spending money, but we never talk sometimes about our cost savings and
Yes.
the impact it has on the town budget.
Okay. After that, we have public buildings for basically the telephone system. It's just based on actual usage over the course of the year.
You're gonna get a truer picture on energy by comparing energy usage versus price, because price fluctuates so much.
But, as I said-
But when I look at the number of gallons,
Right.
Jay,
Yeah, I know.
okay?
That's the usage.
Yeah, we look at that, okay? Because you're seeing, when I look at the oil,
Yeah.
okay, we used, in 2018, for the library, we used 743 gallons over calendar year 2018. What's this going to look like for calendar year 19 when we come here next year? And we should see that drop probably to 100 if we're going the way we're going.
Let's say at 8%. Well, if you can figure 8% of what you did.
But I think we're going to see bigger on,
It's very possibly, but I rather, when I tell somebody, surprise them.
oh, I agree, Jay, but I'm just saying is if you look at here, you can see where our oil, police station, 4,600 gallons, okay?
The cost savings, that's the biggest, I think that's the most important part, is that we're
Right.
saving money.
Now, with us having balanced or rebalanced the system there, are we going to see that drop even more? And that's what we're looking at trying to deal with,
I
okay?
want the people to say that the temperature in the building is fluctuating less. So it's more comfortable in the building, so it should be more efficient.
But that's what we're looking at, and that's what we just need to wait and see. Next one is sealer of weights. That's basically a contracted service with the city of Northampton. Their sealer of weights and measures comes in. We enter into a contract on an annual basis with Northampton. He comes and does all the work here because we couldn't find someone to do it for the town of Granby.
Oh, I asked Dave for a discount today. Laughed.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I was sitting beside him today.
Next one is emergency management. The only thing I really increased there was right-to-know supplies. Basically, that's for the old MSDS sheets, material safety data sheet. They're now called SDSs, safety data sheets. And we haven't really gone through and monitored if all the buildings have been being properly maintained with the current sheets. And this will be to go through and, if need be, take care of that. And our current right-to-know officer is the fire chief. So, okay. Next one is the sewer budget. I will probably be coming forth to the board at some point to put out what our projected sewer rates will be for fiscal year 20, that the board will have to approve prior to town meeting.
Are residents' sewer rates higher than the residents of South Hadley? Because it's a regional treatment plant, that's why I'm asking.
But we have to pay South Hadley
Right.
what South Hadley residents pay, plus our maintenance costs on our lines here. The pump stations, the power, our pump stations, pumping, so on and so forth. We have additional costs over and above the South Hadley sewer rate.
Okay, so if Granby ever imported their own sewer system, going to the regional treatment facility, then we could probably even some of those out, you think, or?
So to be determined.
What are we gonna do?
Right now, we're paying South Hadley, you said to maintain our sewers.
No,
Okay, I misunderstood then.
we have to pay the South Hadley sewer rate.
Right.
$265 per EDU
Okay.
automatically goes to South Hadley,
Okay.
just to be able to have them treat our waste.
Okay,
In addition to that, we have maintenance costs. We have to maintain the pump stations, we have to power the pump stations, we have to do inspections, we have to, we have other contractor services, we still have to do infiltration, we have to meet Title V regulations, DEP regulations, we have to file the reports with the EPA and all the others. We still have all those costs, even though we're paying South Hadley, who has to still do those costs, but under EPA regs, we have to file at the same time. So we have to still pay those additional costs. We still have to maintain our sewer lines in the town of Granby. South Hadley doesn't maintain them, we maintain them
so we're just paying them
for the treatment of the waste.
of the waste going there, and everything else is incumbent upon ourselves.
Yes, okay? That's why our rates are higher,
Okay,
all right?
because we have less amount of people to share it among themselves.
Right, okay?
Okay.
So that's what we have there. As we go down through here, the only differences is we're paying less interest because we're paying down the note that we have outstanding, and we're not replacing a generator as we did in 19. Pretty much I left everything else the same, so. Next one is the curbside collection program. I need to, at some point, we need to have a discussion amongst the board. Our contract expires June 30th of 2020. The question becomes are we gonna continue the curbside collection program? Or are we gonna tell people you're on your own? Because I know there's been a lot of complaints on the way we funded the program back in 2014. Okay,
And you said that the amount that we have to pay for the amount of waste going in is going up.
it's going up, plus the fact is there's no market for the recyclables at this point. So at some point, if you go out and read all the documents out there, they're saying basically recycling is going to be dead across the United States.
Yeah, it's all gonna be waste.
So what's going to happen is you're going to be sending them to incinerators, you're going to be burying it, you're going to be dealing with it as trash instead of taking it out of the solid waste stream. And a lot of people don't know how to deal with it.
Our bulky waste days, are they factored into this?
Yes and no.
Because we were talking about.
Because
doing two
under our
bulky-
current contract,
Right,
we get 4 30-yard dumpsters a year,
that's correct,
free under our curbside collection contract.
which we exceed.
So you filled up, that filled up last time, right?
Yeah, and fill the trucks
Last
up.
time you did it, yeah.
That's why we were thinking about maybe doing 2 bulky waste days, but then we'd have to pay for the extra
Yes.
containers and extra amount of material.
Yes. And that can get expensive.
That's why we're
Because
gonna have to put the
when-
rates up to,
When you're looking at that, you're talking almost $75 a ton
you're right.
to deal with that.
So I think we have to look at the other municipalities and match what they're charging per item,
You know,
and then raise our rate, so,
or are we getting out of the business completely?
my opinion on that is we get out of the business completely.
But
Except for
that'll
bulky
include yard waste, bulky waste,
Right.
the whole 9 yards. We're out of it completely.
Well,
We go for the underride for 330,000. Okay, give it back to the taxpayers. Guess what? You're on your own. But the problem with that is gonna be, you're gonna see more trash being delivered at Dufresne Park, dropped off there in the middle of the night. You're gonna see it on the sides of the roads, and our highway departments, we're still gonna be paying for the cost of disposal, because then we have to pick it up and put it in our dumpsters.
You are 100%.
Yes.
Well, it's already littered now, and I don't think it's by Granby residents, to be honest with you.
Or do we want to turn around as a use for the West Tree School site, knock down West Tree School and put a transfer station in there, where people can drop their stuff off and we haul it to wherever. Or we hire somebody to administer our transfer station.
Whether or not it's that West Street School site, is that a cost savings for us, or is it?
Don't know.
Right.
Don't know.
Hate to-
But if we need to start talking about it, we need to start talking about it now.
Right. I mean, obviously there's pros and cons to the curbside
Yes.
collection. However, and I guess the biggest concern that we all know when this came to a vote was that some people felt, based on the values of their homes, some people are paying, X amount of dollars more than someone else for the same trash. Is that something we look at as far as just saying it's maybe a user fee? So is there a fee that we charge everybody for it?
But the thing is they can opt out of a user fee. You have to give them an opt-out option.
Which, yeah.
Because you have some people, they still have waste management coming in and dealing with their dumpster.
Right.
They throw what they can't throw out on the curbside into their dumpster.
Right.
They're paying waste management to come and empty their dumpster in addition to paying for curbside collection. Okay? Because there's a lot of things we won't take under our program that waste management, when they empty their dumpster, they don't care. They're not they're not dumpster
Right.
diving to make sure
No.
what's being thrown out or not being thrown out.
And one of the big difference between our current contract with Waste Management versus Republic is Republic was very strict about what you could put in there and no snow coating.
Yep.
Waste Management is not. You
The
can-
guy, I think the guy just closes his eyes when he dumps the trash in.
Exactly. You can drive by the streets now and there's snow cone completely. In fact, if you go up, the average person, I say, has a larger container than 35 gallons now
Yep.
with Waste Management.
Oh, yeah, I'll agree with you.
Yep.
I'll agree with you on that. Where Allied
Was
was
strict.
very strict.
Yeah, very strict.
They would reject loads, they'd put rejection stickers.
Yes.
We'd be getting calls at the office all the time that, why did they put a rejection sticker on it? What am I gonna do with my trash? Follow the rules and regs. You don't see that with waste management. And waste management, we were told when people were privately contracting with waste management, they could throw their yard waste in the trash barrel and waste management would take it. It's banned. That's a banned material. Okay? That's the problem we run into is control by the curbside collector.
Who's responsible? That's their responsibility.
Right.
If they're
And
taking-
unless we start getting constant complaints that they're not doing their job, guess what?
And I don't think we do.
No.
I mean, we may get some complaints, but of all the households in Granby, I think it's very,
You know what we get for a complaint? They didn't pick up my trash. Oh, you didn't tell us that it was delayed because we had a major snowstorm that my trash is delayed 1 week. Oh, I put my trash on the curbside in the middle of a snowstorm and they didn't pick it up. Those are the complaints we get.
There's no more complaints about rejection or usage. and
No.
type, because Waste Management will take.
They don't do it. They'll take whatever.
That's correct. And like I say, if you go down my street, you can see everybody's bought a new container and they're all bigger than 35 gallons.
And the issue becomes, I can prove it to you because I've seen our total cost for disposing at Casella in Holyoke. The tonnage has gone up over the last 2-3 years.
Substantially.
or it should be going down.
Yes.
You were right. That's why I'm saying.
And I have the spreadsheet to show the data.
I know you do, because I mean, I can physically see it with my eyes. I can see the snow coating, I can see the larger containers. And Waste Management doesn't.
Nope, they don't
just
care.
take-
They don't care.
Because they just back the town for the total tonnage. They don't.
No, they bring the tonnage
Right.
to Casella. Casella charges us $75 a ton
Right,
for the trash that's delivered there.
right.
We don't get anything back from the MRF anymore.
Nope.
Because the market isn't there for recyclables. At least before, you'd get couple hundred
Yep.
dollars back. But no, you get nothing from them now.
No, I'm saying.
And they're saying when their contract expires in 2020 with the MRF, they're saying they're losing $1 million to $2 million a year operating the MRF. We're going to have to pay to bring our stuff to the MRF, our recyclables. So at some point, do we turn and say, the hell with the recyclables? If it's going to cost me $75 to bring it to Casella versus maybe $80 to bring it to the MRF for recyclables, what do you think we're going to do? That's been said from a lot of towns across the United States. It's cheaper for us to bring it to a trash burner than it is to recycle on a per ton basis. And that's what's happening right now.
Well, I do think it's, I'm sorry. I think this is going to require a lot of investigation and decision-making, more so than we can do right here at this point. I don't know about how you guys feel about it, but we need to act on it rather rapidly.
I'm just forewarning you. We're at the precipice. We have to make a decision.
Do some investigation work.
Because I'll tell you, you go out for another 3-year contract, you're going to see the prices skyrocketing.
Well, we tripled and quadrupled.
Well, that might be something we need to look at though, too, is find out, maybe start going out to
We
bid
put
some
out our
contracts.
RFP. We put out the
Okay.
bid by January of 2020. It gives us 6 months. Or you can try putting it out within the next 3-4 months.
I think we try to put it out sooner than later, and then if we realize it's going to cost a great deal more, then we need to start looking at different options for us.
We need to
You know.
explore all our options.
Yeah, when I was on the solid waste committee, back when we had the committee, we did a study, because it's all tied to the assessed value of the house. I can pull the records back. It was something like, in a round-off number, the least expensive resident was paying $50, and for the same exact amount of trash pickup, one person was paying $1,100.
That's what I just got done saying earlier.
Yeah.
Is that was the concern when this came up originally for a town vote, that a lot of people had concerns, exactly what you just stated, Jay, was that it was an unfair way of doing it, because some people said, like, I live in a house that's worth X amount of dollars, and there's only 2 of me, and someone else lives in X amount of house, and theirs is worth that, and they have a lot more trash than I do, but I'm paying 10 times as much as that person.
You're paying for their trash.
Right, but sometimes that's how that's in towns and cities, and stuff, that's about how it works. You offset each other, you know, just like saying, you know, Johnny Jones, who has a $50,000 car, is paying X amount of dollars for excise tax, and the other one who has a $5,000 car is paying this much for excise tax. But you know what? You both drive on the same road. So you got to kind of look at, there's the other side of it too, and that's part of government.
But I'm just like,
I think, Chris, I think we just need to look at it
Yep.
sooner than later.
I'm just forewarning the board. That's all I'm trying to do as part of this process.
I think we all agree that we have to start really.
And I think 3 or 4 months out, I think 3 or 4 months out is reasonable to start addressing the issues, so we know and have time to really research and prepare if we need to.
I think we need more than 3 or 4 months if you're gonna put an RFP out and get a projected price.
Well, no, in 3 or 4 months is gonna put the RFP out.
Oh, in 3 or 4,
Put it,
okay.
yeah.
See, the issue is we've already got the RFP from 2014, 2017.
Let's change the dates.
All we have to do is change the dates, look at what we want to change in the current RFP, and go from there.
Right, so I think if, we're putting it out sometime in
If we put it out
July,
October,
October, even, that
Yeah.
late, yeah.
well, because they're only going to have 30 days, then we'll be making our decision in December, are we going to continue or not?
Right.
That gives you 6 to 7 months to
Let's
make your,
prepare, yeah.
make your decision.
Sure.
Next sheet down is the state assessments based upon the governor's budget. Because I don't have the House or the Senate versions of the state budget yet, so can only
Did
go
the House
with
vote yet? No?
No,
I thought they did.
no. And usually the Senate is the last, and I've been told probably within the next 30 days they'll be coming out with their version of the budget, so. Is what it is. So, we have no choice on state assessments, to be honest with you, so. The next one down after that, that's basically the cherry sheets that came out with the governor's numbers. Next one down is intergovernmental assessments. We have the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission assessment based on a census population figure from 2010 of 6,240 residents. It's going to be $1,032. And basically, if you look at the assessment, it's going from 16.138 cents to 16.541 cents per person. So it comes out to be a $25 increase. And then we participate in regional lockup. And the fee for FY20 will remain the same as it was for FY19. And basically, it's also based on our population census and multiplied by 95 cents per person. Next one down is liability insurance. Our normal package with Maya goes up 2.5% per year. So I factored that in based upon what my FY19 budget is. But however, because we have a vacant building in the West Street School, that's an additional $17,000 that we have to carry for liability coverage.
That's just another reason why we need to make a decision on that building sooner or later, because just that there, the cost of
Utilities
and stuff
yes.
like that, I mean, that's,
But I'm trying to put this out so the board can
No,
see what
no.
our carrying costs are
Right.
for all this, and it's,
and like I said, I think that's important, that becomes a discussion very soon.
yes.
We
So,
should have a readout, the status of the bond within the next 2 weeks. That's what I was told today.
okay. Next one is our county retirement. That's based upon the cost to operate the retirement system, based upon our wages reported in relation to all the other towns that belong to the system. And that is a $1,053,436 assessment. We can save probably about $19,000 if we can make a single payment of $1,034,000 as of July 1st, but I don't know if we'll have the cash to do that, so therefore I plan the higher amount to be able to make 2 payments, one in July and one in January. So. Okay. Next one is our workers' comp premium. And basically I have a spreadsheet there based upon what was our actual premium was for fiscal year 18, what we projected wages to be in 19, and then trying to figure up what the preliminary for FY19 will be in FY20. So, and I'm looking at a potential 2% payroll increase for FY20. I'm looking at basically the school has been running between 1.5, 2 between 19 and 20, or 18 and 19. So, and then the town, most of the union contracts are at 2%. So I'm using a 2% factor to see what it ends up actually being. Okay. Then unemployment, the unemployment compensation line item, we're at 0.5% contribution rate, and just trying to figure up, I do a 1, 2, and I do a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year average to try and figure up where I think we're going to be. And basically throw a dart at the dartboard and see where it ends up. Yeah. Yep. My crystal ball is starting to get a little hazy, trying to look 18 months in the future, so.
health insurance?
Now we have health insurance and life insurance are the next two sheets. Basically, if you go down 2 sheets, I have a sheet that tracks what our health insurance rates have been at since fiscal year 13. I do basically a 7, 8 year history to see what the rates have been going up and down. I look at a 1-year average, 2-year average, 3, 4, and 5-year average. I take the current enrollment as of January and try and apply what I think is going to be a percentage increase.
With the county, right?
We're with Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, yes. Okay. That's that sheet. And then I have what, based upon FICA and Medicare, based upon what our actual wages are for 18, try and project out what it's going to be for 20, 19, and 20, using 1 to a 5-year average. Okay. Then the last item is just really for the board's edification. Basically, it's for the Granby Public Schools, what our minimum contribution, required contribution is for fiscal year 20. It shows you all the calculations done by DESE based upon the governor's budget. As you can see, the foundation budget goes up $421,000. Chapter 70, our required, the town required contribution goes up $142,000. Chapter 78 is going up $14,000, and required net school spending, which is not the foundation budget, is only going up $156,000. So we have to come up with an additional $156,000 net school spending, minimum school spending, from FY19 to FY20.
Is that counted in the 305?
Nope, that's before the 305. We have always offered $305,000 override in addition to this number. Okay, then we have to factor in, add on what their transportation budget is in addition to that. Okay. I've included a letter that was sent to the school saying we're not participating in shared services, and a spreadsheet that shows our in-kind services that we reduce from the net school spending requirement number. Okay? I know it's a lot of numbers to deal with, but it's something for the board to be able, because you will be going and meeting with them, I believe, on the 18th. So, yeah, so it gives you enough data to be able to review if you want and ask additional questions. Okay? And that, gentlemen, are all the budgets under your control. Yeah, it was for you.
Chris, nice job. You presented the last two for some of the other departments. Nice job.
Yeah, so, thank you. But,
Kudos to you.
and the next step will be to try and bring forth a balanced budget to the Board of Selectmen.
Appreciate that.
That's going to be that one's going to be a little tougher this year, to be honest with you. We still have tuition students going to Smith Folk in Northampton. However, the DESE has not set the FY20 vocational tuition rate for any of the schools yet.
The reimbursement?
No, the rate, the actual tuition rate. DESE calculates that on an annual basis.
They should have set the reimbursement rate for the Smith Voc students by now, I would think.
Are you talking the transportation?
Yeah.
If you go by what Pathfinder says, they're saying it's a 62%
62%?
rate for regional transportation.
And that's something that we sent to the school committee.
We're not going near that one. I'm not going near that one.
No, I'm just saying, the select board sent a letter
Yes.
to them because they were not requesting reimbursement of it. So hopefully this year we'll start getting reimbursed. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything more than that. Because we are authorized reimbursement, and we should get any reimbursement that we're authorized.
Hopefully. Hopefully. The other issue is under,
Here Monday, Jay.
the other issue that I have is under Capital Improvement Committee. They met on Monday night. They approved the purchase of a new pumper truck for $700,000. They,
In addition to the mini pumper of last year?
yes.
Okay.
They approved the purchase of a $30,000 cardiac monitor for the ambulance service. They approved $52,000 purchase for the marked cruiser. They approved a $45,000 purchase for another vehicle for public facilities. We were going to replace the original truck. However, I'm going to keep it now that we are going on our own, and I want the availability of a second truck, not just have one truck on our side, because we need
Is that the
someone.
one they just repaired the engine?
Yep. Yep.
So go to the.
But I had a problem with that because when they brought it and was told that the engine was failing, it was basically, oh, limp along till the end of the year when you buy your new truck. No. We were in the middle of plowing season. We were in the middle of all this other stuff. No. No.
That's part of our safety equipment. We need to make sure
Yes.
that's.
And so I'm the one who contacted them and said, I want a price for a new engine. And we replaced it, pure and simple. Because I can't have my major plow truck for all my buildings limping along in the middle of a winter. So, they also approved a mini excavator for the highway department for $102,000, with the idea that that will be used to increase productivity on the cleaning of catch basins in accordance with the new stormwater regulations from EPA. Because we have about 700 catch basins that have to be cleaned now maybe 2 to 3 times a year versus once a year.
Once every 2 years, I think.
Once a year. Because now if they're 50% full, he has to go and clean them.
But I thought the EPA regulation, they had to do it every 2 years minimally.
It was done as a catch can because nobody really had a definite set of rules and
With
regs.
the new GIS system, though, it'll be tracked a lot closer.
Yeah.
When you did it.
I'm still out on that one. I'll wait and see how it works out. We have a $227,000 approval for a new large plow dump truck. And we have a $69,000 purchase for a 1-ton dump. A lot of money. Comes to $1,230,000 approved for equipment.
That's a lot for 1 year. That's a lot for 1 year.
And yes, it is, and I'm a little concerned on how I'm going to find the money to fund that.
I'm concerned too. I mean.
And I'm being honest with the board.
That's real. That's a lot of money, and replacing a lot of vehicles at one particular time. Not replacing is buying new equipment at one particular time where it doesn't need that. I just don't think that stuff needs to happen in one year, one shot deal.
So.
That doesn't count the infrastructure improvements that you're looking at doing, particularly when, I don't care what department it is, the state's cutting the amount of money they've been funding the different departments. They're cutting all the departments, not just the school, but the highway, everybody's being cut, and you just can't make do with what you used to do. So everybody's gonna have to take a cut. There is no margin, and I know that people don't want a tax rate, but even if they give them a tax rate, there's no margin to get much. We're at the 9th highest in the state, the $3.1 million from the ceiling. So we have to get additional revenue. It's the only way that we're going to make it.
But all I'm saying, this budget season, it's going to be tough to have a balanced budget.
And I think the voters and the people need to hear that. I mean, these are, That's a lot of money to spend in 1 year.
Yes, it is.
Extremely a lot.
And it's not going to end. It's not going to end. Next year, they're already lining up, David's saying he needs a new loader. He needs a new loader to replace, because his is wearing out. That's a $150,000 item,
That's a grant Jay was talking about.
you know.
Not gonna have time to do it.
Then-
It'll be in by Monday.
Then you have the fire department is coming in for, I think, his brush truck replacement. That'll be another $80,000, $90,000. You know, it's just, you just can't keep up with it right now.
And that's when I think we really
And
need
be
to look
honest,
at what are really needs versus wants.
well, I think the other question I have is this thing with the new pumper. The reason that was given at one point to this board to replace it was because the tank is failing. How much does it cost to replace the tank versus buying a brand new one at $700,000?
I think that's things we
Okay.
need to be looked at.
The issue that I have, the engine only has 4,188 hours on it,
That's minuscule.
okay?
$700,000 is a lot of money to take out of a small town budget.
Yeah. And I'm just, you know, I have a concern. I just have a royal concern this year.
And again, these are things, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as looking towards the future and planning for the future.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is, you know, frustrating to myself sitting here now is that, you know, some of the stuff, it should have been thought about each year. And you know, like you said, we can't keep on doing this year after year. We need to come up with a 5-year plan or something so we can plan for certain things and replace things as we're going along. It can't keep on happening.
Yeah.
You know,
But
expect the town to spend over $1 million on replacing equipment, vehicles.
But the thing is you put a 5-year plan, and over that 5 years, say the fire department wants to replace all 3 of their pumpers, or, okay, at $700,000. That's $2.1 million over a 5-year period.
But again, I look at, is there a need? Lots of times, is it a want or is it a need? And there needs to be a need assessment done on that. Is it really needed? And that's what's got to be, you know, put together.
Well, when it's said, well, you know, according to national fire standards, we only should have the vehicle for 20 years. It's 26 years old. Fine, but it's only got 4,200 hours on the engine.
Right. And again,
Okay.
the vehicle's running fine. There's no issues with it. Why are we replacing something?
Or do we spend $150,000 to fix it up, instead of spending $700,000 and get another 10 years out of it for $200,000?
Right.
You know, that's all I'm saying. It's just, it was frustrating sitting here Monday night and listening to it.
I definitely think those are things that, again, need to be looked at as far as what the town can afford. It can't, you know, we can't take everything the town has and expect to keep on moving on.
Yeah.
Because, you know, one day there's going to be a rainy day. We're not going to have a rainy day money.
Well, I'm looking at it, like we talked about, you know, the upper echelon, all reaching retirement ages. Do we want to fund the departments, or are we going to keep funding capital?
I think we need to fund the departments. I mean, that's
You know,
to me, that is real. That's something that needs to happen. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody's department or capital needs, but
what they feel their needs are
Right.
for their equipment.
Right.
But we have issues that we need to start planning for the loss of our upper echelon of department heads.
you know, exactly. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we've got issues with the infrastructure, such as the Forge Pond Dam. Do we want to pay to do something with it, or do we want to pay fines because we didn't do something with it? I'd rather do something with it than pay fines.
We're at a point right now where some heavy-duty decisions have to say we're deferring something, or we need to go forward with something
Well,
else.
that's why I think it's important for the voters to get a complete understanding of what is needed and what's not needed, and they're getting both sides of what needs to be done.
I think we have to look at things realistically, and I think we're doing that at this particular time. We just have to start making decisions like he said, you know, I mean, spending let's hypothetical, $200,000 to repair a situation and keep that apparatus for X amount of years. I think we really have to start looking at that. We certainly can't afford that type of expenditure at this particular time.
We can't, and just knowing that, you know, in 2020, we're just talking about a, you know, waste issue where this could cost the town a lot more money. And, you know, you go back to, the people are saying, well, gee, don't we have any money to offset a cost to the taxpayer? So these are real things that we need to think about, and that's why I said it's really, we need to continue looking towards the future and not just worrying about the present day.
I agree we need to be proactive, but when you got people coming out and saying, you know, Dufresne's Park hasn't been mowed right, it hasn't been weed-whacked, there are no park employees. Today, there are no park employees. Do you want to send a mechanic out there with a higher labor rate to go and mow it? And with David's, the new...
If he's not doing anything, yeah.
No, there's no such thing, not with the new requirements we got now. We got more requirements than we ever had now from EPA and all them. They're gonna be busy. Just like Chris says about cleaning the catch basins.
Well, there's a new assistant town administrator.
That's the CEO.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You didn't hear the conversation down
She doesn't want to hear the conversation down here.
there. You're gonna be replacing me.
You wait, because he could be hit by a bus tomorrow.
You wait.
That is what he said.
trouble, girl.
That is what he said. Good night, Kathy.
Good night.
Good night. But I'm just saying, we do have financial issues that have to be addressed. Can we take care of the equipment purchase one year? To be honest with you, we could with free cash. My free cash came in at 1.6 million.
Well, that's...
But you don't spend all your free cash on 1 year's worth of equipment purchases, because then the department heads will say, well, you got it last year, I can keep going like I'm going. We can't keep going like we're going.
And again, I think if there's a need, a real need, that's what we look at. These aren't wants. Show me a real need. And, you know, when you have a truck, we kind of said before, and you replace the engine in it, well, that truck should be good for X amount of more years. We just replace an engine in it, which is one of the major components of making it run.
Yep.
You know, and that's you know, and okay, that engine costs us X amount of dollars versus 10 times as much for a new vehicle.
Yes.
You know, and I think we need to look at what our vehicles are doing too, and what they're being used for as far as what we need to be spending on them.
Yep. And maybe that's
We have a meeting, a working meeting with our department heads. What are your capital needs for the next 5 years and 10 years?
Right.
To start
I think
looking,
so.
to start looking at that.
Yes.
And we just devote one working meeting for that purpose only,
I think so.
in my viewpoint.
That's where I am. I think we need to, again, plan for the future, because it's always important, whoever sits in the seat after us, it should have a vision where the town was going. It's not trying to pick up things and move on.
forward.
Yep.
Right.
So, well, I think we've talked enough tonight.
Yes. Jay, a lot of input. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I hope you had a good meeting with the Lieutenant Governor.
I have 2 meetings with the Lieutenant Governor and one with the Climate Control Secretary. And I got a whole bunch of stuff listed there, but I'd rather go through it again myself before I present it to you.
Well, I was hoping you weren't going to present it now, just because we've been sitting here for a while, but I do look forward to hearing about your meeting with the Lieutenant Governor, most definitely.
And then hopefully, by the time we have that meeting, I'll have the word on the $4 million bond. She promised me today we get a status within 2 weeks. And one of the things that may help us, we talked upon this and she agreed with it, that we can combine state grants, such as energy, MVP, and so on, but we can't use one state grant to offset. Right, like sometimes come like an in-kind 25%, like we're looking at MVP, you can't use one grant to offset that. But she's gonna let us, because we discussed the new town hall and the new senior center. Can we use MVP money as far as getting rid of the excess stormwater or possibly sewage in conjunction to building it and combining it with incentives from net zero energy? And she says, yeah, we can make that work. Those were her words. We can make that work. But now you've got to do all the paperwork and the justification to prove them all come at the same time. And sometimes that's not an easy task to do.
Well, at this point, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that motion.
Oh, I don't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.